Some truths are too ancient to speak, yet they whisper through time. Across the vast reaches of forgotten dynasties, buried beneath layers of dust and silence, lie secrets the world was never meant to find. From lost tombs sealed with curses, to scrolls inked with riddles no scholar has cracked, ancient China holds stories older than legend, deeper than myth. Why did emperors consult the stars before war? What lies behind the eyes of dragon carvings that adorn jade thrones? And who were the shadowy alchemists said to defy death itself, vanishing into vapor, leaving no trace? This is a realm where history blurs into enigma, where every rustling bamboo leaf might conceal a ghost of the past, and each ancient symbol may unlock something far greater than knowledge. So as the world outside fades and your eyes grow heavy, let the unknown draw you in. Soft chime, wind sweeps gently through chimes and distant temples. Sit back, relax, and let's dive deeper into the mystery. It begins in silence. A wide ochre plain stretches out beneath the cloud-streaked skies of Shanxi province in north-central China. The land here holds its breath, still dry, unremarkable at first glance. But beneath the soil lies one of the most astonishing archaeological discoveries in modern history: a buried empire, frozen in time. Just outside the ancient city of Xi'an, a labyrinth of earthen chambers conceals more than 8,000 life-sized warriors, archers, generals, infantrymen, horses, and chariots, each figure hewn from clay, each one uniquely sculpted with individual expressions, hairstyles, and armor. This is the Terracotta Army, the eternal guard of China's first emperor, Qin Shi Huang. Discovered by accident in 1974 by farmers digging a well, the figures emerged from the ground like a vision from another world. Nearly 2 millennia after their creation, they stood in eerie ranks, as if waiting for orders long since lost to history. Who built this army? And more pressingly, why? Qin Shi Huang ascended to the throne of the Qin state at just 13 years old, and by 221 BCE had unified the warring states of China into a single empire. Ruthless and visionary, he implemented sweeping reforms, standardizing currency, script, and weights, constructing a network of roads, and beginning work on the Great Wall. Yet beneath this outward order was a man deeply afraid of death. Obsessed with immortality, Qin Shi Huang dispatched envoys to distant lands in search of the elixir of life. When they returned empty-handed, or didn't return at all, he turned inward, commissioning a subterranean world meant to mirror the one above. According to ancient chronicles, more than 700,000 laborers toiled for decades to create his mausoleum complex, a sprawling underground necropolis said to span nearly 38 square miles. The Terracotta Army was merely its outpost, his celestial guard stationed to protect him in the afterlife. But here the narrative begins to shift, from the realm of history into the haze of mystery. Despite the scale of the army, the emperor's central tomb remains sealed. Archaeologists have probed the earth with remote sensing equipment and magnetic scans, detecting massive chambers and unusual voids. But none have dared open the burial mound itself. Ancient texts, including the records of the Grand Historian by Sima Qian, describe a vast chamber filled with miniature palaces, rare treasures, and deadly traps. Rivers of mercury were said to flow through the tomb, simulating the great waterways of China. At first, the reference to mercury was considered symbolic, but soil samples taken near the tomb revealed unusually high concentrations of the element, up to 100 times the normal level. Could it be true? Could an ancient emperor have used toxic mercury to construct a replica of his empire beneath the earth? And if so, what else lies within? Historians and scientists alike debate the feasibility of excavating the central tomb. The preservation of artifacts, exposure to oxygen, and the ethical questions surrounding grave disturbance all present significant barriers. But for now, the Emperor sleeps, his secrets intact. Among those secrets, the warriors themselves present a puzzle. Each figure is unique, no two faces the same. Was this merely an artistic choice, or is it possible that they were modeled after real individuals? Some scholars believe that artisans sculpted the likenesses of actual soldiers, officers, and even foreign mercenaries who served in Qin's vast military machine. But others look further afield. In 2007, speculation flared when a German historian proposed that contact between China and the West, perhaps even with ancient Greece, may have occurred far earlier than previously believed. The idea was radical. Could Hellenistic influence have inspired the sudden and unprecedented realism seen in the Terracotta army? Supporters of the theory point to the abrupt evolution of sculpture techniques in China at that time. No other known Chinese artworks from the period show such lifelike proportions or dynamic stances. The suggestion, though not widely accepted, remains tantalizing. After all, Alexander the Great's empire stretched to the fringes of Central Asia just a century before Qin's rise. Trade routes, early precursors to the Silk Road, may have facilitated more than just goods. Is it so far-fetched to think that ideas could travel too? Beyond the warriors, other oddities deepen the mystery. Some of the bronze weapons found with the Terracotta army remain astonishingly well preserved, exhibiting a thin chromium oxide coating that has prevented corrosion for over 2,000 years. Modern metallurgy would not use similar anti-corrosion techniques until the 20th century. Was this the result of advanced ancient knowledge, or a fortunate coincidence of soil chemistry? No definitive answer has been found. Even the layout of the tomb complex suggests a higher order of symbolic design. The entire necropolis mirrors the Qin capital above ground, complete with roads, barracks, and administrative quarters. It seems less a grave and more a parallel reality, an empire carved in silence. And then there are the missing elements. Despite decades of excavation, only a fraction of the full site has been unearthed. Entire sections remain unexplored. Among the most elusive, the rumored palace of the emperor, said to lie at the heart of the tomb mound. If it exists, it has never been seen. Digs around the area are careful, cautious, aware that even the vibration from modern equipment could damage irreplaceable artifacts or activate ancient traps. Are the archaeologists being too careful? Or just wise? The truth is, no one knows what truly lies beneath the mound. What began as a simple well has led to the edge of something far greater, an unfolding labyrinth of clay, bronze, and riddles buried beneath the centuries. As night falls over the fields of Xi'an and the shadows grow long between the ranks of silent warriors, one cannot help but wonder, was Qin Shi Huang building a tomb or a doorway? And if it is a doorway, to where? The earth still guards its silence. The emperor waits, and the army, his ever-watchful sentinels, stand ready. The camera pans slowly across a mist-covered mountainscape. Peaks rise like silent sentinels above ancient pine forests, their roots tangled with centuries of legend. In the stillness, one can almost hear the whisper of forgotten dynasties, echoes from a time before time. It is here, in the folds of myth and history, that we encounter one of China's most enigmatic figures, the Yellow Emperor. Known as Huang, the Yellow Emperor is often considered the founding ancestor of Chinese civilization, a sage king, a warrior, a divine ruler, a god. The line between legend and historical fact begins to blur the moment his name is spoken, and yet his influence endures, woven deeply into the cultural and spiritual fabric of East Asia. According to traditional Chinese historiography, Huang reigned over 5,000 years ago, around the mid-3rd millennium BCE. He is said to have unified warring tribes, introduced systems of governance, and laid the foundations for Chinese medicine, music, writing, and agriculture. Under his guidance, humanity took a step away from chaos and closer to civilization. But is the Yellow Emperor a real historical figure, or a symbolic embodiment of something much older, the records of the Grand Historian, compiled by Sima Qian in the 1st century BCE, treat Huang as a genuine ruler? Yet his portrayal is anything but ordinary. He is described as having emerged from the region of Xuanyuan, possessing a divine mandate and supernatural wisdom. His birth was foretold by cosmic omens. His throne was said to rest beneath the shifting stars, and his reign, marked by miraculous inventions and celestial encounters, has all the texture of mythology. He is credited with the invention of the compass, the calendar, and the chariot. The Huangdi Neijing, or the Yellow Emperor's Inner Canon, a foundational text of traditional Chinese medicine, attributes its teachings to him. He is said to have debated philosophy with immortals, communed with dragons, and vanished into the heavens at the end of his reign, ascending not into death but into legend. Was Huangdi a single man, or a composite figure, an amalgamation of tribal leaders, deified over time? Some scholars suggest that the Yellow Emperor represents not an individual, but a lineage, or even an era. The merging of oral traditions, prehistoric records, and religious symbolism could have shaped him into a mythic archetype, a vessel for memory. And yet, some physical traces remain. Ancient texts speak of the Xuanyuan platform, a sacrificial altar in modern-day Xinjiang, Henan province, said to mark the birthplace of Huangdi. Rituals are still performed there today, with offerings made to honor the ancestral spirit of the Han people. But could there be more? Could the Yellow Emperor have been something, or someone, far stranger? As we peer deeper into the mists of deep antiquity, unusual threads begin to emerge. Taoist writings, composed centuries later, describe Huangdi's pursuit of immortality. He is said to have studied with mystics on Mount Kunlun, a place believed to exist at the intersection of the earthly and the divine. Here, in this mythic geography, the Yellow Emperor was taught the secrets of Tao, the way, the cosmic order underlying all of existence. From these teachings arose not only Taoism, but the very concept of aligning human life with the rhythms of the universe. But what did Huangdi find on Kunlun? Some esoteric traditions suggest that Mount Kunlun was not a literal place at all, but a metaphor or even a code. Others take the story more literally, proposing that Kunlun was a portal, an ancient site of contact between the human world and higher intelligences. In modern speculative circles, some have drawn parallels between the Yellow Emperor and ancient astronaut theories. The idea is provocative. Could the sudden burst of technological and philosophical knowledge attributed to Huangdi have originated from a source beyond Earth? Skeptics point out the lack of concrete evidence. Historians note that assigning extraterrestrial origins to ancient achievements risks undermining the ingenuity of early civilizations. But the question persists, not as a certainty, but as a symbol of our desire to understand what lies behind the veil of myth. Because even within more accepted scholarly circles, mysteries remain. Why do so many ancient cultures, including those with no known contact, feature similar archetypes? The wise king descended from the stars, the bringer of law, medicine, and fire, the immortal teacher. We find echoes of Huangdi in Sumerian texts, in Egyptian lore, and in Vedic hymns. Patterns or coincidences? And why did the Yellow Emperor disappear so completely? According to the most enduring version of the tale, Huang did not die. Surrounded by his ministers, he summoned a golden dragon at the bridge of the immortals and ascended into the heavens. His robes were left behind, folded neatly on the stones. In the centuries that followed, emperors claimed descent from Huang to legitimize their rule. Philosophers referenced his wisdom. Alchemists pursued his elixirs. And yet, no tomb has ever been found. No contemporary inscription bears his name. No relic has surfaced to anchor the myth in time. Was this by design? If Huang was a divine being, as some believed, then perhaps he left no trace because he was never bound by the same material world. If he was a shaman king, deeply attuned to the cycles of nature and the patterns of the stars, then his life may have been preserved not in stone, but in symbol. And if he was real, truly real, then what else has been forgotten? As we return once more to the quiet hills and mountain temples where his spirit is still honored, a feeling lingers, that of a truth just out of reach, a thread waiting to be pulled. What lies at the root of civilization? Where does myth end and memory begin? Could the Yellow Emperor be both, a man and a metaphor, a ruler and a riddle, or perhaps something else entirely? The story continues, deepening with every question. And as the ancient wind moves through the pines of the sacred mountains, it seems to carry a whisper. He was here once, and he may yet return. The trail of ancient mystery continues, winding from the mythic figure of the Yellow Emperor to a very different ruler, one whose power was real, immense, and absolute, but whose end remains cloaked in shadows. The year was 210 BCE. After decades of warfare, reform, and relentless ambition, Emperor Qin Shi Huang, the first emperor of China, was nearing the end of his life, or so it would seem. He had unified the fractured states under one imperial banner, ordered the construction of massive architectural feats, including the early foundations of the Great Wall, and created a standardized system of weights, measures, and currency. His will reshaped the world around him, but beneath the surface of his accomplishments, something deeper and more desperate was at work. Qin Shi Huang feared death. More than feared it, he was obsessed with avoiding it. Historical records tell us that the emperor dispatched ships, emissaries, and scholars in search of the elusive elixir of life. He called upon alchemists, mystics, and seers, demanding answers that even the wisest among them could not provide. Some were executed for failing to deliver immortality. Others disappeared entirely. The emperor was not only fighting time, he was waging war against the unknown. And then, he vanished. During a royal tour of eastern China, an inspection of the empire's coastal provinces, far from the capital, Qin Shi Huang died. The exact location, the region of Shakyu in what is today Shandong province. His death, according to the records of the grand historian, was sudden and carefully concealed. Why? According to the court historian Sima Qian, Qin's ministers, fearing unrest, kept his death a secret for weeks as the imperial carriage made its slow return to the capital, Xianyang. To hide the scent of decay, they reportedly filled the carriage with salted fish. Orders were issued in his name. Edicts were forged. It was a deception on an imperial scale. But the mystery deepens when we ask, how did Qin Shi Huang die? The official account points to illness, fatigue from his travels, perhaps heat stroke or a stroke. He had reportedly suffered episodes of poor health in the months prior. Yet these explanations, though plausible, lack detail. There is no surviving record of the emperor's symptoms, no autopsy, no eyewitness account of his final breath. Only silence, followed by secrecy. And then there's the medicine. Toward the end of his life, Qin Shi Huang began taking mercury pills, supposedly a potion for immortality. In the context of ancient Chinese alchemy, mercury, or liquid silver, was believed to carry the essence of life. It symbolized transformation, but in reality, it was a slow and deadly poison. Was the emperor unknowingly hastening his own demise? Modern historians widely believe that mercury poisoning could have contributed to, or caused, his death. Chronic exposure can lead to tremors, confusion, kidney failure, and madness. Some accounts describe Qin as increasingly erratic and paranoid in his later years. His judgment reportedly deteriorated. He became more isolated, more distrustful of his advisors, and more obsessed with signs and omens. Could his relentless pursuit of immortality have ultimately killed him? Or was there more at play? Some theories hint at foul play. At the time of the emperor's death, internal tensions within the court were rising. The powerful eunuch Zhao Gao and Prime Minister Li Si are said to have conspired to hide Qin's passing and to manipulate the succession. Rather than allow the emperor's chosen heir to take the throne, they altered his final decree and installed a weaker, more easily controlled son, Qin Ershi. If these events are accurate, they suggest not only political treachery, but premeditated intent. Was Qin Shi Huang murdered? There is no conclusive evidence, but the timing is curious. The emperor died just before the announcement of his successor. The cover-up was swift and sophisticated, and both Zhao Gao and Li Si would go on to orchestrate brutal purges to consolidate their power, only to fall to intrigue themselves shortly after. Some have suggested that the emperor's death may have been neither natural nor entirely human in nature. Legends surrounding Qin's final journey describe strange omens, unusual celestial phenomena, sudden storms. One obscure chronicle speaks of a sky dragon that passed over the emperor's camp the night before his death. Another claims that a star fell into the sea near the site where his fleet had once launched in search of immortals. Were these metaphorical accounts literary devices used to signify fate? Or did the emperor's relentless push into the metaphysical finally attract forces beyond his understanding? And then there is the matter of the tomb. As explored earlier, Qin Shi Huang's burial complex remains largely unexcavated. A sprawling necropolis, still concealed beneath the hills near Xi'an. Its sealed chambers, its reported rivers of mercury, and its eerie silence have kept its secrets intact. It is said that the tomb mirrors the cosmos, that the emperor lies in the center of an artificial universe designed to preserve him in eternity. Could his death have been part of that design? Some Taoist traditions suggest that death is not always an end, but a transformation, a necessary step in the journey toward immortality. Could Qin have believed that his body would perish, only for his spirit to awaken in another realm? Or, more controversially, did he die at all? A few speculative theories entertain the notion that the emperor staged his death, that the man who died in the eastern provinces was not Qin at all, but a body double. In this version of events, the real emperor slipped away in secret, either to continue his alchemical research or to retreat into some hidden sanctuary, waiting for the stars to align. There is no proof of such a theory, of course. Only gaps, only echoes. But the facts we do have are strange enough. An emperor dies without warning. His death is hidden. His body is entombed in a sealed complex that no one dares open. His court collapses into chaos. His dynasty, which seemed destined to last 1,000 years, crumbles in less than 20. What really happened in the final days of Qin Shi Huang's life? Was it poison? Treachery? Divine retribution? Or did he, in some unknowable way, succeed in what he sought most, escaping death entirely? For now, we do not know. The first emperor of China remains buried beneath the earth, his spirit perhaps still journeying through the chambers of his underground empire, his death a riddle woven into the clay of history. And somewhere beneath that silent hill in Shanxi province, the answer may still be waiting. The journey through ancient China's mysteries leads us deeper into shadow and flame, into laboratories carved from mountain stone and scrolls inked with secrets. The death of Qin Huang, mysterious in its suddenness and surrounded by whispers of mercury, opens a door into another enigma, the ancient pursuit of immortality. A pursuit that did not end with the emperor. It began long before him and continued long after. This was the realm of the alchemists. By flickering candlelight and beneath stars whose constellations guided their rituals, early Taoist alchemists toiled in secrecy. They were neither mere scientists nor priests, but something in between, guardians of knowledge that straddled heaven and earth. Their goal was not wealth, not weaponry, but the ultimate prize. Changsheng Bulao, long life without aging. Immortality. In the soft blue mist of dawn, their rituals began. Compounds of rare minerals were ground into powder, fused over sacred flames, and sealed within crucibles of jade and bronze. In mountain caves and hidden chambers, they experimented with combinations of cinnabar, realgar, and mercury, guided by principles that saw the cosmos mirrored within the body. But what were they truly searching for? In traditional Taoist belief, the human body is an echo of the universe, a microcosm governed by the same elemental forces. To live in balance with these forces was to achieve health. To master them completely was to transcend death. Alchemy, in this context, was not only a physical process but a spiritual one. Transforming lead into gold was symbolic. The real goal was to transform the mortal into the immortal. This fusion of chemistry and cosmology produced a tradition unlike any other. Texts such as Bao Pusi, written by the scholar alchemist Ge Hong in the 4th century CE, describe complex processes involving precious stones, purified metals, and sacred geometries. These were not metaphorical instructions, they were practical guides, meant to be followed precisely. Some survived the process, others did not. Many of the so-called elixirs of immortality were anything but life-giving. In fact, they often proved lethal. Mercury, arsenic, and lead were common ingredients. Ironically, emperors and nobles who pursued these potions in the hope of prolonging their reign often succumbed to them. Qin Shi Huang is only one of many rulers suspected of dying from elixir-related poisoning. Yet the belief persisted, despite the risks, despite the tragedies. Why? Perhaps it was because some claimed success. Scattered through Chinese history are tales of hermits and sages who allegedly achieved immortality, not by ingesting dangerous compounds, but through a subtler alchemy of breath control, meditation, and internal refinement. This inner path, known as Naden, contrasted with the outer or laboratory-based Waden. Both sought the same goal, but through different doors, one through fire and metal, the other through breath and spirit. Legends speak of immortals who vanished into mist atop Mount Penglai, or rode cranes into the heavens, or retreated into hidden grottos where they were said to live undisturbed for centuries. These figures, known as Xian, became part of a mystical lineage, appearing now and then to advise emperors or wandering scholars before disappearing once more. Were they symbols or something more? One of the most enduring legends centers around the Isles of the Immortals, mythical lands said to lie far off the eastern coast of China. According to historical accounts, Qin Shi Huang himself sent ships in search of them, led by the mysterious court sorcerer Shu Fu. Shu's fleet departed with hundreds of young men and women carrying grain, livestock, and tools. They never returned. Some say Shu Fu landed in what would later be known as Japan, bringing Chinese knowledge to a new land. Others suggest the fleet was lost at sea. And then there are those who whisper that the mission was successful, that Shu found the islands, found the immortals, and chose not to return. Could such a place have existed? More grounded theories propose that early alchemists possessed knowledge of medicine and minerals far ahead of their time. It is true that some herbal concoctions recorded in alchemical texts would later form the basis of traditional Chinese pharmacology. Some even hint at methods of preservation and detoxification that defy the scientific expectations of their era. Were the alchemists wrong about the elixir, or simply misunderstood? There are also accounts, rarely discussed, of ancient practitioners achieving strange physiological effects through meditation and breathing exercises, altered heart rates, slowed metabolism, even trance-like states bordering on hibernation. In one preserved story, a monk was found sitting upright in a cave decades after his last appearance in the world, his body intact, unrotted. Was this a kind of immortality? Or was it merely a trick of nature, misinterpreted through the lens of faith? The line between belief and biology, between spiritual symbolism and physical alchemy, is a delicate one. And in ancient China, it was rarely drawn sharply. The alchemists did not see the body and spirit as separate. They were bound together by invisible channels, meridians of qi, the vital energy that flows through all living things. To alter the body was to shift the soul. To purify the spirit was to extend the body's life. Yet still the question lingers: did anyone succeed? Among the overgrown peaks of Wudang and the silent cliffs of Huashan, pilgrims still search for hidden monasteries, hoping to uncover forgotten formulas. Scrolls are said to lie buried in sealed tombs or sealed behind temple walls. And in some modern corners of Taoist practice, the alchemical language continues, not as science, not as religion, but as something in between. A tradition that remembers the dream of eternity. And perhaps that is the most haunting aspect of all, that across centuries and dynasties, through war and peace, the pursuit of immortality never truly died. It adapted. It transformed. Like the elixirs themselves, it moved through different phases, sometimes visible, sometimes not. What were the alchemists really chasing? A longer life? A cosmic truth? A doorway to something beyond human understanding? And if the answers were ever found, where might they be hidden now? Somewhere, perhaps, a scroll lies unopened, a formula untested, or a legend not yet fully understood. As the flickering light of ancient alchemical fires fades into the soft glow of early dawn, we continue deeper into the mysterious undercurrents of ancient China, where bone, fire, and symbol converge in one of history's most remarkable and least understood discoveries. It begins with a story. A farmer in central China, digging in dry yellow earth, unearths a strange fragment, a flat piece of bone inscribed with delicate marks. At first it seems insignificant, but then another is found, and another. Thousands, in fact. What these bones held would rewrite Chinese history. They came to be known as Longgu, dragon bones. In rural medicine shops of the late 19th century, they were ground into powders, believed to treat fever, stomach ailments, and even madness. Yet their true origin had nothing to do with dragons. They were, in fact, the remains of the earliest known Chinese writing, etched onto turtle shells and ox scapula over 3,000 years ago. The oracle bones. By the early 20th century, scholars realized what they had stumbled upon: the script of the Xia Dynasty, a civilization once considered mostly myth. Carved into bone and heated over fire, these inscriptions were used in divination, rituals meant to communicate with ancestors and deities, asking questions about harvests, warfare, childbirth, weather, and even dreams. The bones spoke, quite literally, through the cracks. The diviner would inscribe a question onto the bone or shell, apply heat until it cracked, and then interpret the pattern of the cracks as answers from the spirit world. The response, the date, and even the name of the scribe were sometimes recorded alongside the question. Together, they form the earliest known body of Chinese script, a direct link to the thoughts and concerns of a Bronze Age court. But how did these ancient inscriptions survive? And how did they come to be lost in the first place? The Shang capital of Yin, near present-day Anyang, where most of the bones were discovered, fell around 1046 BCE to the rising Zhou dynasty. As power shifted, so too did religious and political traditions. Oracle bone divination faded into obscurity. Over the centuries, the bones, buried in royal pits and refuse heaps, were slowly forgotten, until, by the Qing dynasty, they were being sold under the guise of dragon medicine. But while historians were thrilled by the linguistic treasure found in the bones, a deeper mystery began to take shape. Some of the inscriptions are remarkably sophisticated, describing celestial events, military campaigns, and dynastic rituals in detail. The language used, while archaic, is structurally related to modern Chinese. This suggests that the writing system had already been evolving for centuries before the bones were carved, which raises a question. Where did this writing come from? The discovery of the oracle bones pushed the known history of Chinese script back over 1,000 years. But it also revealed a gap, a missing link. There is no definitive evidence of the transitional scripts that must have existed between simple symbols carved on Neolithic pottery and the formal characters of the Shang. Could there have been an even older writing system? One that was deliberately hidden or lost to time? Some fringe researchers have pointed to enigmatic carvings on jade relics or stone patterns found in remote caves as possible precursors. Others note the curious similarities between Shang pictographs and distant symbols found as far afield as Mesopotamia or the Indus Valley. Are these merely coincidences? Or evidence of long-forgotten cultural contact? Mainstream scholarship remains cautious. There is, as yet, no definitive link between ancient China and other early writing traditions. But the mystery remains. How does a script this advanced appear so suddenly? And then there is the dragon. The term dragon bone may have been a misunderstanding, but not without significance. The dragon, in Chinese tradition, is more than a beast. It is a symbol of power, transformation, and mystery. It governs the rain, the rivers, the breath of the heavens. And in myth, it often guards knowledge, hidden texts, sacred relics, forgotten truths. That the first known Chinese writing was mistaken for dragon remains may be, in some strange way, fitting. For there is something haunting in the way these bones were used. Each one holds a moment, an inquiry into the unknown, a question carved with fire and intent. Who was behind the voice that asked, "Will there be rain next month?" Or, "Will the king's hunt be successful?" These are not the thoughts of a faceless mass, but of individuals reaching across time, a priest, a king, a mother, asking the universe to answer. In their cracked surfaces we find an ancient rhythm, the desire to understand the future, the need to speak to the past. Yet even now, many of the bones remain untranslated. Some scripts defy interpretation. Were they personal codes, or symbols of an esoteric class of knowledge lost when the Shang fell? Theories persist that some of the bones were not merely divinatory, but part of a broader system of magical writing, that they encoded secrets not meant for public record, or that the bones themselves, shaped and stored with meticulous care, formed a kind of archive, one not only historical but spiritual. In recent years, archaeologists have returned to the ruins of Yin with new technology, ground-penetrating radar, 3D imaging, advanced dating techniques. Yet many of the oracle pits remain untouched. Thousands of bones lie unexcavated, their voices still silent. What might they reveal? A forgotten ritual? A buried dynasty? Or perhaps a glimpse into the very beginning of Chinese civilization, one far older and stranger than we now imagine? The dragon bones do not answer easily. They wait. They wait in dust and stone, their language flickering like ancient fire, waiting for someone to listen again. And as we move deeper into this labyrinth of forgotten scripts and hidden truths, one cannot help but wonder, how many more voices have yet to speak? And what questions are they still waiting to ask? As we leave behind the ancient oracle bones, those whispered messages from the Shang kings etched into turtle shell and bone, we journey further west, across mist-covered mountains and emerald river valleys, to a place where history folds inward and the past stares back through eyes of gold and bronze. Welcome to Sanxingdui. Set against the fertile plains of Sichuan province, not far from the city of Guanghan, the site of Sanxingdui remained hidden beneath layers of quiet earth for over 3,000 years. It wasn't until 1929, when a farmer accidentally struck jade fragments while digging an irrigation ditch, that the first traces of this long-forgotten culture came to light. But the full scope of its mystery would not begin to unfold until the 1980s, when 2 ceremonial pits were discovered, each brimming with ritual objects unlike anything found elsewhere in China. What emerged from the soil stunned archaeologists and challenged long-held assumptions about early Chinese civilization. Towering bronze masks with exaggerated angular features, wide almond-shaped eyes, protruding pupils, a bronze tree stretching over 4 meters tall, with serpentine branches and mythical birds perched like watchful sentinels. Elephant tusks, exquisitely carved jade, ritual daggers, and sacred vessels, all buried deliberately, shattered or burned, in what appears to have been a single, deliberate act of ceremonial destruction. These artifacts did not align with the familiar styles of the Shang Dynasty, whose influence dominated central China during this era. Sanxingdui's aesthetic, symbolism, and craftsmanship felt alien, as if a separate civilization had flourished in parallel, just as sophisticated, yet entirely distinct. Who were these people? The site has been dated to between 1200 and 1000 BCE, and while no written language has yet been uncovered, archaeologists believe that Sanxingdui was once the heart of a powerful Bronze Age kingdom known as Shui, mentioned briefly in ancient texts but long assumed to be mythical. The Shui people, it seems, were very real, but their culture, their beliefs, and even their identity remain elusive. What gods did they worship? Why did they create such immense ritual works, only to bury them in fire and ash? And perhaps most puzzling of all, why did they disappear? By 1000 BCE, the Sanxingdui site appears to have been abruptly abandoned. No signs of war, invasion, or natural disaster have been conclusively identified. Yet the civilization vanished, leaving behind only fragments and silence. Some scholars suggest that environmental shifts, earthquakes or flooding of the nearby Minjiang River, may have forced the people of Sanxingdui to migrate. Others believe the religious and political center simply relocated, perhaps to Jinsha, a nearby site with similar artifacts discovered decades later. But none of these theories fully explain the suddenness or scale of the departure, and still, the unearthed objects raise more questions than they answer. The bronze masks, many of which stretch wider than a man's torso, appear to represent gods, ancestors, or shamanic figures. Some wear elaborate headdresses or feature strange animalistic elements. Horns, wings, serpent-like features, blurring the line between human and mythic. One particularly haunting statue stands at over 2 meters tall, with outstretched arms and a solemn, expressionless face. Was it a god king? A priest? A celestial being? The exaggerated eyes found on many of the figures suggest a motif of heightened perception. Some masks even have tubular extensions where the pupils should be, as if to reach or see into another realm. Were these symbols of visionary power? Were they representations of mythic beings? Or, as some fringe theories cautiously ask, do they depict something else entirely? For decades, a handful of researchers and theorists have drawn comparisons between Sanxingdui artifacts and those of other distant cultures. Some note the visual parallels to Olmec statues in Mesoamerica. Others compare the craftsmanship of the bronze trees and masks to ancient Mediterranean metallurgies. There is no clear evidence of contact, and yet, the similarities, though subtle, invite quiet speculation. Could there have been cultural exchange between distant civilizations earlier than we've imagined? Or did these symbolic styles simply emerge independently, guided by the universal language of myth? Some have gone even further. Because the masks and figures of Sanxingdui are so unlike any found in other Chinese dynastic tombs, fringe theorists have speculated about non-human inspiration. Were the Sanxingdui people depicting deities that came from the stars? Was their sudden disappearance linked to a cosmic cycle, a return to the heavens from which they believed they came? These ideas, though speculative, echo something deeper. A recognition that the story of Sanxingdui does not neatly fit into any known narrative. It stands apart, isolated, watching. And yet, their craftsmanship tells us this was no primitive culture. The bronze work is extraordinarily advanced, involving multi-part casting techniques that allowed for complex forms and fine detail. This level of metallurgical sophistication suggests a long developmental arc, one that must have included lost knowledge, lost cities, and perhaps lost texts. The silence of Sanxingdui is not the silence of simplicity, but of something vast and deliberate. In recent years, new excavations have uncovered additional pits, revealing ivory carvings, silk remnants, gold foil masks, and more astonishing bronze relics. But still, no tomb has been found, no royal burial, no written record, only offerings, buried and burned. Were these acts of reverence or attempts to erase? Whatever the truth, the Sanxingdui civilization invites us into a different vision of ancient China, one less centralized, more fragmented, and infinitely more mysterious. It reminds us that history is not a straight line, but a tapestry, one that is still being woven, even now, with threads that stretch into shadow. Somewhere beneath the soil of Sichuan, answers may still wait. A forgotten language, a hidden tomb, a final offering left untouched by time. And until they are found, the figures of Sanxingdui remain as they have always been, silent, staring, and strangely familiar. What did they see? And what did they leave behind for us to remember? As the mist rises off the rivers that snake through the heart of ancient China, a lost legacy lingers on the edge of history. Elusive, faint, but undeniably present. It is the story of a dynasty whose very existence has been shrouded in mystery for millennia. The Xia Dynasty. In traditional Chinese historiography, the Xia is considered the first dynasty of China, the cradle from which all subsequent civilizations would emerge. Yet for all its legendary status, the Xia remains curiously absent from the archaeological record. There are no grand tombs, no monumental palaces, no inscriptions on oracle bones or bronze vessels to anchor their story in the earth. What happened to the Xia? According to ancient texts like the records of the Grand Historian by Sima Qian, the Xia Dynasty ruled for over 400 years, from approximately 2070 BCE to 1600 BCE. Its founder, Yu the Great, was a legendary figure who is said to have tamed the great floods of the Yellow River, establishing order and civilization in a land that had been ravaged by natural disasters. Yu's reign was followed by a series of rulers, each credited with contributing to the development of Chinese society. But here's the paradox. The historical accounts of the Xia are far more mythological than factual. There are no contemporary records from the Xia period. The first real evidence of Chinese civilization, in the form of written records, emerges with the Huang Dynasty around 1600 BCE. The Xia, it seems, fade into legend before this point. What happened in the intervening centuries? Over the years, scholars have speculated that the Xia were simply a myth, a creation of later dynasties to legitimize their own claims to power. Some have argued that the Xia were more of a loose confederation of tribes rather than a unified dynasty, and that their history was later inflated into a grand narrative. But the persistent references to the Xia in ancient texts, alongside the rich stories passed down through generations, suggest something deeper. Could there be truth behind the legend? Was there a Xia dynasty that once ruled in the shadows of early China, only to be obscured by time and the rise of more powerful dynasties? In the early 20th century, archaeologists made a breakthrough that seemed to suggest a connection between myth and reality. Excavations at the site of Erlitou in the central plains of China uncovered a sprawling settlement complete with large palaces, intricate bronze works, and evidence of sophisticated urban planning. The dating of these finds placed them at around 1900 BCE, near the end of the supposed Xia period. Could this be the lost capital of the Xia dynasty? The Erlitou site has been a subject of intense debate. Some scholars argue that it is indeed the home of the Xia, while others point out that the material culture found there bears significant similarities to that of the Shang dynasty, suggesting that the Erlitou culture was an early phase of Shang development, rather than a distinct Xia civilization. But the questions raised by Erlitou are just the beginning. The most perplexing element of the Xia dynasty's disappearance is the suddenness with which it seems to vanish. According to traditional accounts, the Xia fell to the Shang, a dynasty that rose to prominence in the Central Plains and quickly eclipsed the Xia in power and influence. The records of the Grand Historian tell of a tyrannical final ruler, Ji of Xia, whose misrule and cruelty allegedly led to the downfall of the dynasty. Ji's reign is said to have been marked by decadence, corruption, and a refusal to heed the warnings of his ministers. Is this the whole story? Did the Xia dynasty fall due to internal collapse, or was something else at play? Some have suggested that the Xia may have been victims of a natural catastrophe, floods, earthquakes, or a shift in the course of the Yellow River, which could have led to their collapse. Others speculate that the Xia were overthrown not by the Shang, but by a foreign invader, perhaps from the western regions, whose influence had begun to creep into the northern Chinese plains. Yet there are other, more speculative theories. Could the Xia dynasty have been involved in something much grander, much more complex, than simply an internal collapse or external invasion? Were they part of a larger, perhaps even cosmological scheme, an ancient civilization that had advanced beyond what we can comprehend today? Some fringe theories have posited that the Xia may have been a civilization with knowledge of lost technologies or spiritual practices that allowed them to wield great power, only to fall victim to a cataclysmic event that erased their existence from the historical record. And what of the mysterious floods that Yu the Great is said to have quelled? Were these literal floods, as the texts suggest, or something more metaphorical? Some have speculated that the flood story could be a memory of a real geological event, a massive flood or other natural disaster that reshaped the landscape and wiped out the Xia civilization. The lack of physical evidence, though, has made it difficult to substantiate any of these theories. In the absence of definitive proof, the Xia Dynasty remains elusive, its legacy defined by myth rather than fact. Yet the hints and fragments that have emerged over the years, the stories of Yu the Great, the enigmatic site of Erlitou, and the sudden disappearance of the dynasty, continue to spark questions. Could there be more to the story, hidden beneath the surface, waiting for the right discovery to bring it to light? As we stand on the edge of the known world, gazing into the shadows of the past, we are left with the haunting thought that perhaps the disappearance of the Xia dynasty is not a case of forgotten history, but one of hidden history. A history deliberately veiled, waiting for the moment when the veil might lift, and the truth, whatever it may be, will finally emerge from the darkness. What, if anything, did the Xia leave behind? And what truths are still buried, waiting to be uncovered? As we travel deeper into the enigma of ancient civilizations, we find ourselves drawn to a question that has captivated historians, explorers, and even armchair theorists for centuries. Could ancient China have discovered the Americas long before Columbus set sail? Imagine for a moment the vastness of the Pacific Ocean, its horizon stretching endlessly under the golden light of a setting sun. To the west, China, a cradle of ancient civilization, lies steeped in myth, legend, and innovation. To the east, across the mighty expanse of water, lies a land shrouded in mystery. America. Unfamiliar, distant, and untouched by the civilizations of the old world, or so it seemed. Yet, scattered across the pages of history are curious threads that suggest that ancient Chinese explorers might have reached the Americas centuries before European navigators. Is this possible? Or are we simply romanticizing the past with tales of long-forgotten voyages? The most widely known narrative of transoceanic exploration, of course, centers on the age of European discovery, with Christopher Columbus arriving in the Caribbean in 1492. This event marks the beginning of the modern era of exploration, colonization, and cultural exchange between the old and new worlds. But what if Columbus wasn't the first? Evidence of pre-Columbian contact between the Americas and Asia has been proposed by some scholars, based on a mix of archaeological finds, ancient texts, and even artifacts that seem out of place, as if they had traveled across the oceans long before they were supposed to. Take, for example, the mysterious story of the Chinese junk, a type of ancient Chinese sailing ship known for its stability, advanced rigging, and ability to navigate long distances across the open sea. Some claim that these junks were capable of reaching distant lands, including the Americas. The first solid hint of this theory appears in the records of the Ming Dynasty. In the early 15th century, the legendary Admiral Zheng He, under the orders of the Yongle Emperor, embarked on a series of monumental voyages across the Indian Ocean. Zheng He's fleet, consisting of hundreds of ships, traveled from China as far as Africa and the Arabian Peninsula, bringing back goods, treasures, and perhaps new knowledge of the world beyond China's borders. But did these expeditions reach further? Some fringe historians suggest that Zheng He's fleet, with its impressive navigational technology and vast maritime expertise, may have ventured as far as the western coast of North America. The argument hinges on the possibility that the Chinese ships may have traveled far beyond their known routes, with some theorists pointing to ancient Chinese maps that depict lands resembling the Americas. One such map, known as the Mappa Mundi, produced during the Ming Dynasty, includes an outline that bears striking resemblance to the west coast of the Americas, particularly the shape of California's coastline. Critics of this theory claim that these maps are merely speculative or inaccurate, but the mere suggestion remains intriguing. Another fascinating piece of evidence comes from the Chinese stone carvings found on the west coast of the United States. In the early 19th century, some explorers reported encountering mysterious stone tablets etched with Chinese characters. The most famous of these discoveries was the California stone, found in the 1930s. This stone, if authentic, bears inscriptions in an ancient form of Chinese, suggesting that travelers from the Far East might have reached the American continent long before European exploration. Even more curious are the stories of ancient Chinese artifacts found in the Americas, particularly in the southwestern United States. Numerous claims have been made about the discovery of coins, pottery, and even bronze objects that bear striking similarities to Chinese craftsmanship. These artifacts, some of which have been found near ancient Native American sites, seem to suggest that there might have been some form of contact or exchange between the peoples of ancient China and the indigenous cultures of the Americas. Could these artifacts be evidence of ancient Chinese explorers? Or do they represent the cultural diffusion of ideas that spread across the Pacific Ocean over centuries? It's important to note that while many of these claims remain contested by mainstream archaeology, they continue to inspire curiosity and debate. One of the most compelling pieces of evidence, however, lies in the realm of genetics. Recent genetic studies of indigenous peoples of the Americas have revealed traces of East Asian ancestry in certain populations. While it is widely accepted that the ancestors of Native Americans arrived from Siberia via the Bering Land Bridge thousands of years ago, some researchers have suggested that there could have been additional waves of migration from other parts of Asia, including China, long before the time of Columbus. These genetic markers, combined with the linguistic similarities between some Native American languages and ancient Asian languages, provide yet another layer to the mystery of pre-Columbian contact. Could these genetic traces point to an earlier migration from China to the Americas, one that left only faint traces in the genetic makeup of indigenous peoples? Still, much of this remains speculative. Mainstream archaeology largely dismisses the idea of pre-Columbian Chinese exploration of the Americas, citing the lack of definitive evidence. The prevailing view is that the cultures of ancient China were primarily focused on the development of their own civilization, and that any maritime exploration beyond their immediate sphere of influence would have been unlikely and unrecorded. Yet the possibility of trans-Pacific voyages, however improbable it may seem, continues to linger in the shadows of history. Some have pointed to the fact that ancient Chinese seafaring technology, which was far ahead of its time, could have facilitated such journeys. The Chinese, after all, were masters of navigation and shipbuilding, long before the Europeans ventured beyond their own coasts. Their ships, particularly during the era of Zheng He, were capable of carrying vast numbers of people and supplies across long distances. Perhaps the question is not so much did they as could they have. Could ancient Chinese explorers have set sail across the Pacific, lost to the annals of history? Or could they have been part of a broader tradition of ancient seafaring cultures that reached across the oceans, only to have their story erased by the forces of time, politics, and conquest? As we peer into the distance, across oceans and centuries, the enigma remains. What if the Americas were not so unknown after all? What if the threads of ancient civilizations, now scattered across the globe, are waiting to be woven together again? What other secrets might the deep waters of history still be hiding? In the heart of Beijing, surrounded by the bustle of modern life, there stands a monument to China's imperial past, a vast, imposing complex that has captivated the imaginations of countless visitors and scholars alike. The Forbidden City, a name that conjures up images of power, mystery, and a history that stretches back over 6 centuries. This sprawling palace complex, covering nearly 180 acres, was once the home of the emperors of the Ming and Qing dynasties, housing their families, officials, and servants in its grand halls and lavish chambers. It is a place that embodies the opulence and isolation of China's imperial past, a place where every stone and wooden beam whispers of ancient secrets, some lost to time, others deliberately hidden from view. But what if, beneath the gleaming surface of this ancient palace, there lies a network of hidden chambers, places known only to a few, concealed from the eyes of the public and perhaps even from the emperors themselves? While much of the Forbidden City is open to visitors, with its meticulously restored halls, gardens, and treasures on display, there are still areas that remain closed off, shrouded in secrecy. Some of these areas have been sealed for centuries, while others are only accessible to the most high-ranking officials. Yet despite the wealth of information available about the Forbidden City's history and layout, questions still linger. Are there hidden chambers within its walls that have yet to be discovered? And if so, what might they hold? The most famous and well-documented part of the Forbidden City is, of course, the Imperial Palace, the residence of the Emperor and his family. Within these walls, a complex web of administrative and ceremonial spaces, such as the Hall of Supreme Harmony and the Hall of Mental Cultivation, were used for everything from state banquets to imperial rituals. The Forbidden City was designed to reflect the Emperor's divine power, with every building, room, and artifact carefully chosen to symbolize his role as the Son of Heaven. Yet there are stories that suggest the Forbidden City's true depths may be far more mysterious than its outward beauty lets on. Perhaps one of the most enduring mysteries revolves around the Palace of Heavenly Purity, where the Emperor would conduct private affairs and receive intimate counsel from trusted advisors. Some say that this palace contains hidden chambers, places that were deliberately concealed from even the highest court officials, meant to protect sacred knowledge or safeguard royal secrets. Could the Emperor, in his seclusion, have kept something far more valuable than material wealth within these walls? Perhaps a secret, a treasure, or even a forbidden history? Perhaps the most famous example of such hidden spaces is the hidden chamber of the Empress Dowager Cixi, one of China's most powerful and enigmatic figures. Cixi, who effectively controlled the Qing dynasty from the late 19th century until her death in 1908, is said to have possessed great political cunning and foresight. Rumors abound that Cixi had a network of hidden rooms and chambers within the Forbidden City, places where she would conduct clandestine meetings and keep vital records that could expose the truth behind her rise to power and the intrigues of the court. In 1923, when the last emperor, Puyi, was dethroned and forced to leave the Forbidden City, it is said that some rooms were sealed off and their contents carefully hidden away. It was during this time that rumors of hidden chambers began to surface, with stories of treasure chests filled with priceless artifacts, secret scrolls containing forbidden knowledge, and rooms that remained locked for reasons unknown. Despite these rumors, many historians and archaeologists believe that much of the Forbidden City's true structure has been thoroughly catalogued and mapped. The majority of the complex has been studied extensively, with the most significant rooms and buildings revealed to the public. The Palace Museum, which now occupies the Forbidden City, contains some of the world's most priceless treasures, including imperial paintings, jade sculptures, and gold jewelry. Yet, there remains a sense of something hidden, just beyond reach. A place where even the most thorough investigations might not uncover everything. This sense of mystery has only deepened in recent years, as modern technology has begun to reveal hidden layers beneath the palace's surface. In 2014, for example, Chinese archaeologists announced that they had discovered a previously unknown underground structure beneath the Forbidden City. Though still in the early stages of excavation, this underground space could hold answers to long-standing questions about the palace's construction and its secretive past. What lies beneath the grand courtyards and marble floors? Are there hidden chambers, even older than the Forbidden City itself, that predate the Ming Dynasty? But even as new discoveries unfold, the question remains: what was hidden deliberately, and what might still be concealed within the very walls of the Forbidden City? Did the emperors, in their infinite power, hide knowledge of lost civilizations, or protect secrets that might threaten the stability of the empire? One speculative theory suggests that these hidden chambers could contain ancient manuscripts or religious texts, perhaps from long-forgotten dynasties, that document esoteric knowledge or philosophies suppressed by the ruling emperors. Some believe that these writings might reveal a connection between the imperial court and Taoist or Buddhist sects, whose mystical practices were sometimes at odds with the Confucian principles that dominated imperial rule. Others have suggested that hidden chambers might have been used for ritual purposes, where emperors and empresses could perform private ceremonies to commune with the gods, or perhaps even communicate with the spirit world. In ancient China, the line between the spiritual and the political was often blurred, and the emperor was seen not only as a political leader, but also as a mediator between the heavens and the earth. As much as we have uncovered about the Forbidden City, there remain layers of mystery beneath its ornate facades, an untold history that beckons us to consider the possibility of something more, something waiting to be discovered. The Forbidden City was a place where the world of the living and the world of the dead coexisted in delicate balance. Could some of its chambers still harbor the forgotten remnants of this ancient sacred world? With each new excavation, each new revelation, the Forbidden City's secrets become ever more tantalizing. What lies beneath the dust of centuries, waiting to be uncovered? What truths have been locked away, either for protection or for secrecy? As we ponder these questions, one thing remains certain. The Forbidden City, with all its grandeur and opulence, is still a place where the past lingers just beyond our reach, forever calling us to look deeper. At the base of the towering Mount Ming, nestled along the banks of the Yangtze River, lies a city that seems suspended between the realms of the living and the dead. Fengdu, often referred to as the Ghost City, is a place of legends, mysticism, and eerie silence, a place that exists in the collective consciousness of Chinese folklore as a realm of spirits and the afterlife. As you approach the city, the steep mountain paths twist and turn, leading you through thick forests and past ancient stone temples. The air seems to grow heavier with each step, as though the very earth is laden with centuries of history. Rising from the fog and mist, the city itself appears almost unreal. Its stone statues, grimacing and towering, seem to beckon visitors to come closer, though their expressions are anything but welcoming. Fengdu is a place where the boundary between this world and the next seems unnervingly thin, where time appears to stand still, and where questions of what lies beyond death become as tangible as the stones underfoot. According to Chinese tradition, Fengdu is the site of the Chinese underworld, ruled by a pantheon of gods and overseen by King Yanluo, the supreme judge of the dead. The city is said to be a portal to the afterlife, a place where souls are judged before their passage to either eternal peace or torment. The city is populated by the spirits of the departed, and the architecture reflects this, a chilling blend of temples, shrines, and statues that depict both the serene and the terrifying aspects of death. Yet, beneath this surface of myth and ritual, the true origins and purpose of the Ghost City remain shrouded in mystery. Fengdu's most famous structures, such as the Temple of the King of Hell and the Ghost Torture Chambers, evoke both reverence and fear. Here, visitors can observe a strange juxtaposition. On one hand, the place is revered as a gateway to the afterlife, with pilgrims arriving from all over China to seek blessings for their departed ancestors. On the other hand, it is a city that has been abandoned for centuries, leaving behind only the traces of its past. The city's origins are difficult to pin down. Some accounts trace its history back over 2,000 years, to the Han Dynasty, when the first temples and shrines were constructed. Others suggest that it was founded as a place of ritual sacrifice, with kings and officials of ancient China sending their offerings to the gods of the afterlife in hopes of gaining favor in this world. Over time, however, Fengdu evolved into something far more mysterious, an embodiment of the complex Chinese understanding of death and the afterlife. But what caused this strange place to gain its reputation as the ghost city? What role did it play in the spiritual landscape of ancient China? One popular legend surrounding Fengdu tells the story of a Taoist priest who, in ancient times, sought to achieve immortality through his spiritual practices. Over time, his mastery of alchemy and mysticism led him to become an immortal, but the story took a dark turn when the priest's actions attracted the attention of the emperor, who feared the growing power of the Taoist priest. In response, the emperor ordered the priest's execution, but the priest's spirit, now immortal, continued to haunt the area, setting the stage for the city's eerie reputation. This narrative ties Fengdu not only to the concept of death, but also to the timeless struggle between life and the supernatural. As we delve into the city's more speculative aspects, a series of unexplained phenomena begins to surface. Locals and travelers have long reported seeing strange figures in the distance, shadowy shapes that seem to materialize and disappear in the blink of an eye. Some claim to have heard disembodied voices calling out in the night, while others speak of an unsettling feeling of being watched. Could these reports be merely the product of superstition and fear, or is there something more at play in Fengdu? Could the city itself be a place where the boundaries between the material world and the spirit world are thinner than anywhere else? One of the most intriguing aspects of Fengdu is its unique architectural features. The city is renowned for its stone sculptures, many of which are grotesque and unsettling. Statues of demons, gods, and tormented souls are scattered across the landscape, with some facing the river as if guarding the entrance to the afterlife. What purpose did these statues serve? Were they meant to act as protectors of the sacred city, warding off evil spirits? Or were they created to invoke fear and reverence in the living, ensuring that those who ventured into the city understood the seriousness of their journey? The torture chambers are another key feature of Fengdu that adds to its eerie atmosphere. These chambers, filled with horrific depictions of punishments and torments, have led some to speculate that the city once served as a place of ritualized executions. Were these chambers used as a form of purification, where those who were judged unworthy by the gods were sent to meet their fate? Or did the chambers have a more symbolic function, representing the trials that souls must face as they journey through the afterlife? Then there is the disappearance of the city's inhabitants. While records suggest that Fengdu was once a thriving community, with a bustling population of priests, scholars, and traders, it is unclear when or why the city was abandoned. Was it the result of natural disasters, political upheaval, or perhaps the gradual shift in religious and spiritual practices over time? Or, as some have suggested, did the spirits of the dead grow so powerful that they overwhelmed the living, driving them away from the city for good? In the modern era, Fengdu's ghostly reputation has only grown, with travelers and spiritual seekers visiting the site to experience its mystique firsthand. There are even stories of people who claim to have felt a sudden coldness or an overwhelming sense of dread upon entering certain parts of the city, as if the spirits themselves were trying to communicate. The mystery surrounding Fengdu is not merely one of ancient history or folklore. It is a puzzle that continues to challenge our understanding of the relationship between life, death, and the unknown. What happened to this once vibrant city, and why has it remained a place of such power in the collective consciousness of China? Is Fengdu simply a monument to the afterlife? Or could it be a symbol of something deeper, something we are only beginning to understand? As the city continues to stand in quiet repose on the banks of the Yangtze, its mysteries remain unsolved, lingering in the shadows, waiting for those who dare to uncover the truth hidden within its ancient walls. Among the many artifacts that have emerged from China's ancient past, one object stands out as a symbol of both mystery and reverence: the bee disc. These smooth, jade circles, often decorated with intricate patterns and bearing a perfect hole at their center, have fascinated archaeologists, historians, and mystics alike for centuries. The bee is an object of profound significance in Chinese culture, associated with power, spiritual beliefs, and even the passage between life and death. Yet, despite their widespread use during the Neolithic and Shang dynasties, the true meaning and purpose of these discs remain tantalizingly elusive. At first glance, the Bai disc appears deceptively simple: a smooth, polished ring of jade with a hole in the center. But this straightforward design belies the layers of meaning that have been attached to it. In ancient China, jade was considered the most precious of materials, revered not only for its beauty, but also for its association with immortality and divine protection. It was believed that jade had the ability to ward off evil spirits, and it was often used in burial rituals to protect the deceased in their journey to the afterlife. The Bai disc in particular was frequently found in tombs, often alongside other grave goods such as weapons, ritual vessels, and pottery. This suggests that the bee disc was not just a decorative object, but something of great ceremonial importance. It was typically associated with heavenly symbolism, reflecting the cosmic balance between the heavenly realm and the earthly realm. The circular shape of the Bai, perfect, unbroken, was believed to represent the heavens, while the hole in the center symbolized the passage to the underworld. Some even speculate that the Bai discs were meant to facilitate communication between the living and the dead, serving as a symbolic key to unlock the mysteries of the afterlife. But the intrigue surrounding the Bai disc does not end with its ritual significance. Despite the many examples found in ancient tombs and burial sites, no definitive explanation has ever been provided as to why these discs were created, nor what exactly they were meant to represent. Some of the earliest references to the bee disc come from the Shang Dynasty, 1600 to 1046 BCE, where they are often found in tombs of the elite. Yet, even during this time, the true meaning of the bee remained veiled in mystery. The fact that these discs were made from jade, a material requiring immense skill to carve and polish, suggests that they were rare and valuable objects. But were they symbols of social status, representing the power and prestige of the elite? Or were they something more spiritual, used in religious ceremonies to honor the gods or ancestors? Perhaps the most fascinating aspect of the Bai disc is its connection to the cosmos. The circle has always held a sacred place in many cultures, and in ancient China it was no different. The shape of the bee was thought to represent the eternal cycle of life, death, and rebirth, with the hole symbolizing a portal through which one could transcend the boundaries of the physical world. In this sense, the bee disc could have been seen as a tool for accessing higher realms, perhaps even a conduit through which the dead could communicate with the gods. But beyond the known ceremonial and symbolic uses of the Bai disc, there are many unanswered questions. Why, for example, do we see so many variations of the Bai, each with different sizes, shapes, and intricacies in their design? Could these differences indicate a form of regional variation in belief systems, or perhaps a symbolic language embedded in the design itself? Some researchers believe that the patterns etched into the surface of the jade discs might have been used to represent specific celestial bodies or events, possibly even marking the movements of the stars or planets. A particularly fascinating theory suggests that the Bai disc could be linked to ancient astronomical knowledge that was passed down through the generations, but gradually lost over time. Some speculate that the discs were not simply ornamental, but served as a form of celestial calendar, tracking the movements of the stars and the cycles of the moon and sun. If this were the case, the hole in the center of the disc could represent a cosmic axis, a central point around which the heavens themselves revolved. But if such knowledge existed, it has long since disappeared, leaving only the discs themselves as cryptic relics of an ancient and potentially advanced civilization. And then there are the more speculative theories. Some have suggested that the Bai disc could have been used for ritualistic purposes, such as offering sacrifices or invoking the gods. But there are those who take the mystery a step further, proposing that the Bai disc may have been an object of extraordinary significance, linked to ancient shamanic practices or even an early form of alchemy. Could these jade discs have been used in some form of spiritual or metaphysical transformation, acting as a vessel to channel mystical energies? Could they have been tools for ancient seers or shamans, used to access alternate planes of consciousness or even otherworldly dimensions? There are also those who have pointed out that the Bai's significance may be rooted in something more universal, perhaps tied to an ancient mythology of creation, a cosmic story shared across different cultures, in which the circle represents both the source of all life and the gateway to the unknown. Could the discs have been a manifestation of this ancient myth, serving as a physical token of the cyclical nature of existence? Whatever the true purpose of the Bai disc may have been, one thing is clear: it was never meant to be a mere ornament or token of wealth. The precision with which these objects were crafted, the care with which they were placed in tombs, and the aura of reverence that surrounds them all point to a deeper significance. These discs were meant to serve as more than just physical objects. They were symbols of something greater, something transcendent. As we look back at these relics from a distant past, we are left with more questions than answers. What exactly did the ancient Chinese believe about the afterlife, the stars, and the forces that governed the universe? Did the Bai discs hold the key to understanding these beliefs? And if so, what other secrets might still lie hidden within their jade surfaces, waiting to be uncovered, waiting to reveal the cosmic truths they were designed to carry? The mystery of the Bai disc remains unsolved, its meaning obscured by time, but its power to captivate our imaginations endures. As the search for answers continues, one cannot help but wonder what other clues have been left behind, buried beneath the layers of history, waiting for the right moment to surface once more. As dusk falls over the plains of ancient China, the sky above takes on a deep, infinite hue, a vast canvas of twinkling lights. To the untrained eye, it's nothing more than a collection of distant stars scattered across the heavens. But to the ancient Chinese, the night sky was far more than a collection of lights. It was a map, a record of the cosmos that held secrets waiting to be deciphered. The sky maps created by Han Dynasty astronomers were not merely charts of the stars. They were intricate representations of the universe's deepest mysteries, reflecting a profound understanding of the heavens. Yet, despite the remarkable detail of these maps, many questions still linger. How did the Han astronomers know so much about the stars, and what knowledge did they encode into their celestial charts? The earliest astronomical records of China date back to the Zhou dynasty, but it was during the Han dynasty, 206 BCE, 220 CE, that astronomical studies truly flourished. The Han Empire had an exceptional understanding of the night sky, and their contributions to early astronomy were groundbreaking. At the heart of this knowledge were the celestial charts known as star maps or sky maps, detailed illustrations that captured the arrangement of constellations, celestial bodies, and the movements of planets. One of the most remarkable features of these sky maps is the sheer precision with which they were drawn. The Han astronomers not only tracked the stars, but also developed methods for predicting celestial events. such as solar and lunar eclipses, the positions of the planets, and the shifting of constellations. These maps were used not only for practical purposes, such as calendar creation and agricultural planning, but also for spiritual and divinatory purposes, reflecting the deep connection between the heavens and life on Earth in ancient Chinese thought. The star maps themselves were often drawn on silk or bamboo strips, each star carefully marked and connected by lines to form the shapes of constellations. Some maps were incredibly detailed, showing not just the stars, but also the nebulae, the planets, and other astronomical phenomena. There was even a growing interest in astrology, with maps helping to predict the fortunes of rulers and commoners alike, based on the movements of the stars and planets. But perhaps the most intriguing aspect of these ancient sky maps is what they suggest about the Han astronomers' knowledge of the cosmos. While it is widely accepted that the ancient Chinese had a deep connection to the heavens, there are certain mysteries embedded in their celestial charts that continue to puzzle modern researchers. One particularly enigmatic feature is the inclusion of unidentified stars and constellations. Astronomers from the Han period mapped stars that are not present in modern catalogs, leading some to ask, were the Han astronomers observing stars that have since vanished? Or did they possess knowledge of celestial phenomena that remains beyond our understanding? Ancient records, such as those of the Book of Han, describe a number of comets, novae, and unusual stars that are now difficult to identify with certainty. One of the most famous examples is the supernova of 1054 CE, which was recorded in Chinese texts. It is believed that Chinese astronomers at the time noted the sudden appearance of a new star in the sky, a phenomenon that was later confirmed by modern astronomers to be the explosion of a star that created the Crab Nebula. This record suggests that the ancient Chinese were not only aware of transient celestial events, but were also keen observers of cosmic change. What is particularly remarkable is that their methods for tracking and recording such events were incredibly sophisticated, using a mix of observational data and theoretical understanding that was centuries ahead of its time. But these sky maps go beyond simple observation. There is evidence that the Han astronomers used these maps in astronomical calculations and predictions, a practice that led to the creation of an early form of astrology. The connection between the movements of the stars and earthly events was deeply woven into Chinese belief systems. Rulers often consulted astronomers and astrologers to ensure that their decisions aligned with the movements of the heavens. Some of the most influential figures in the Han Dynasty, such as the famous astronomer Zhang Heng, are credited with designing some of the earliest star maps and astronomical instruments, including the seismoscope and early water clocks. Yet despite these impressive achievements, there remains much that is unknown about how the Han astronomers compiled their knowledge of the sky. How did they achieve such accuracy in their observations, especially given the limited technology available at the time? And how did they manage to identify constellations and stars that seem to lie outside of our current understanding? Could there have been some form of ancient astronomical wisdom passed down over generations, kept secret, or lost to history? One theory that has intrigued some researchers is the possibility that the Han astronomers were not working alone in their studies of the cosmos. Could there have been other ancient civilizations that contributed to the astronomical knowledge that the Han Dynasty possessed? While this idea remains speculative, it raises the possibility that there may have been an early exchange of knowledge between cultures long before the known trade routes of the Silk Road came into existence. The idea that ancient China might have had contact with other advanced societies, perhaps in Mesopotamia or Egypt, opens the door to many fascinating possibilities. And then there is the question of the mysterious star known as the Five Stars. This peculiar phenomenon appears in several of the Han Dynasty's sky maps, yet no modern star catalog has ever been able to definitively identify it. Some have speculated that it could refer to a series of comets, a planetary alignment, or even a long-lost celestial body? Could the ancient Chinese have had knowledge of a star or planetary system that has since disappeared from our view? Or was this simply a symbolic representation, part of a broader spiritual or metaphysical system embedded in their understanding of the heavens? The mystery of the Han Dynasty sky maps continues to captivate modern scholars and astronomers alike. With each new discovery, whether in ancient texts or through modern technology, we are forced to reconsider what the ancient Chinese truly knew about the cosmos. Did they possess a deeper, more profound understanding of the universe than we realize? And if so, what other knowledge might be hidden in their ancient maps, waiting to be uncovered? Amidst the emerald waters of China's ancient riverways, where mist clings to the mountains and the air hums with the echoes of history, a long-forgotten story drifts like a shadow across time. In the heart of the Wu Kingdom, an enigmatic tale of floating palaces whispers through the annals of legend, inviting us to ponder a marvel of architecture and ambition. These floating structures, magnificent palaces suspended upon water, are said to have graced the shores of Lake Tai during the Three Kingdoms period, a time when the Kingdom of Wu rose to power under the leadership of Sun Quan. At their peak, the floating palaces were described as breathtaking, ethereal sanctuaries, drifting serenely across the waters of Lake Tai, their marble walls gleaming in the sunlight. Legends suggest that these structures were not mere homes but powerful symbols of the kingdom's dominance, elegance, and connection to nature. But as much as these palaces captivated the imagination of poets and chroniclers, they have also captivated historians with their mystery. How were these palaces constructed, and what purpose did they serve? Did they truly float, as ancient texts suggest, or was their construction more grounded in reality? The Wu Kingdom was one of the three warring states that emerged during the tumultuous Three Kingdoms period, 220 to 280 CE, a time of intense military conflict and political intrigue. The Kingdom of Wu, located in the southeastern region of China, was a land of rivers, lakes, and sprawling wetlands, an environment that seemed to blur the line between solid ground and the shifting, elusive waters. In the writings of the time, particularly those recorded in the records of the Three Kingdoms by the historian Chen Shou, there is mention of the floating palaces, grand structures that seem to defy the laws of nature. Some accounts suggest that these palaces were built upon specially constructed wooden platforms, supported by an intricate system of buoyancy mechanisms that allowed them to drift gently across the water's surface. These structures, it is said, were crafted with the finest materials, precious stones, delicate jade, and polished marble, forming a vision of grandeur that reflected the wealth and power of the Wu Kingdom. Yet for all their splendor, the very existence of these floating palaces has been called into question. While ancient texts describe them in vivid detail, no physical evidence of these palaces has ever been found. Their disappearance from the historical record adds an extra layer of mystery to the tale. Were they real, or were they simply a product of poetic imagination, designed to reflect the legendary status of the Wu rulers? And if they did exist, where are they now? Many historians believe that the floating palaces were more likely a symbolic expression of power, rather than literal structures designed to float freely upon the water. One theory suggests that the palaces may have been built on the banks of the lake, but constructed in such a way that they appeared to float from a distance. Reflective waters, combined with carefully planned landscaping, may have created the illusion of floating palaces, an optical illusion that added to the mystique of the Wu Kingdom. Some have speculated that the palaces were built upon artificial islands, their foundations submerged just below the water's surface, creating the appearance of floating marvels. Yet this theory does not fully explain the grandeur or the purpose of these buildings. Why would the Wu rulers invest so much time and resources into constructing such elaborate structures, only to have them appear to float for the sake of an illusion? Could there have been a deeper, more practical reason behind these seemingly fantastical palaces? Another possibility is that the floating palaces were connected to the Wu kingdom's naval superiority. The kingdom was known for its mastery of the Yangtze River and its powerful navy, which played a crucial role in the kingdom's survival and expansion. Perhaps the palaces were designed to serve as command centers, strategically positioned on the water to ensure the protection of the kingdom's coastal borders. Some have suggested that the floating nature of the palaces might have been an adaptation to the ever-changing dynamics of river and lake navigation, allowing the rulers to stay mobile and close to their forces at all times. But if these palaces were indeed meant to reflect the supremacy of the Wu kingdom, their beauty and elegance would likely have been part of a carefully crafted narrative. The palaces may have been designed not only to impress, but also to embody the relationship between the rulers and the elements, an expression of power over the natural world, as well as a testament to their intimate connection with the waters that nourished and protected the land. In addition to their practical functions, it is possible that the floating palaces were steeped in ritual and spiritual significance. Water has long held symbolic meaning in Chinese culture, often associated with transformation, fluidity, and the passage between worlds. The palaces may have represented a kind of spiritual journey, offering the rulers and their court a space for reflection and communion with the divine. These floating sanctuaries might have been used for sacrificial rites, ceremonies to honor the spirits of water, or even astrological observations, as the night sky over the lake would have provided an ideal setting for such practices. As is often the case with the most intriguing historical mysteries, fringe theories have also emerged around the floating palaces of Wu. Some suggest that these structures were more than just monuments of human ingenuity and power. They may have been connected to ancient technologies lost to time. The idea that the floating palaces were built using advanced engineering techniques, perhaps even involving buoyancy principles far ahead of their time, has led to speculation that the Wu rulers may have been in possession of knowledge that has since disappeared from history. Could these palaces have been powered by some unknown technology, harnessing the forces of the water in ways that modern science has yet to fully understand? And yet, the absence of any physical evidence leaves these theories tantalizing but inconclusive. No remains of the floating palaces have been discovered, and no clear architectural blueprints have survived to offer further insight into their construction. Some have suggested that they may have been destroyed by natural disasters, flooding, fires, or the ravages of time. Others propose that the palaces were abandoned following the decline of the Wu kingdom, lost to the shifting tides of history, their grandeur fading into myth and legend. As we reflect on the floating palaces of the Wu kingdom, we are reminded of the delicate interplay between fact and fiction, between the real and the imagined. The palaces, if they truly existed, stand as a testament to the grandeur of a time long past, a time when the rulers of Wu sought to claim dominion over both land and water. Yet, like many aspects of the ancient world, their true purpose and fate remain hidden beneath the surface of time, waiting for a deeper understanding, perhaps to be revealed only when the waters themselves choose to share their secrets. Deep beneath the earth, hidden from the prying eyes of time, lie tombs, elaborate, intricate burial sites that carry within them not only the remains of the dead, but also questions that defy simple answers. These underground tombs, scattered across China's vast landscape, have long captivated archaeologists and historians alike. Their mysteries entwined with contradictions, unexpected engineering feats, and eerie symbolism. How could such grand and complex burial chambers have been created with the tools available at the time? Why do some of them appear to defy the logic of ancient construction? What are they telling us about the civilizations that built them? One tomb in particular stands out as both a marvel and an enigma: the Huang tomb in Changsha, which dates back to the Han Dynasty, 202 BCE, 220 CE. Here, Nestled beneath layers of earth, the tomb of Lady Dai, also known as Sanxingdui, has been preserved in a state that seems almost impossible given the centuries that have passed. When archaeologists uncovered the tomb in the 1970s, they were stunned by the astonishing state of preservation of the tomb's contents. The silk clothes of Lady Dai, the fine lacquered coffins, even her skin, remarkably, all were preserved as though frozen in time. In fact, the mummified body of Lady Dai herself, still wrapped in layers of silk and placed in an airtight coffin, was remarkably well preserved, with her skin still intact, her veins visible, and the fragrance of her body preserved as though she had just been laid to rest. This mummification, while extraordinary, is not in itself unusual. What raises questions is how such a tomb could have remained so undisturbed and preserved for over 2,000 years. How did the tomb's designers manage to shield it so effectively from the natural forces of decay and the destructive forces of time? One theory posits that the Mawangdui tomb was built using an advanced sealing technique with layers of charcoal and brine-soaked cloth meant to create a barrier between the tomb and the outside world. But the question remains, could ancient civilizations have understood such preservation methods to the extent that they could create airtight chambers with no modern tools or technologies at their disposal? Further exploration of ancient Chinese tombs brings us to the tomb of the General of Xi'an, located in the Shanxi province. Discovered in 1991, this tomb is believed to belong to a high-ranking official from the Qin dynasty, and it is unlike any other tomb from that era. For centuries, archaeologists have puzzled over its design, most strikingly, the use of underground chambers that defy the traditional tomb structures of the time. Instead of the typical stone chambers, this tomb's burial site was built with wooden structures that were seemingly designed to withstand natural disasters, including earthquakes. Some researchers suggest that the tomb was designed with earthquake-resistant technologies, which, given the time period, seems almost unthinkable. The precision with which the tomb was constructed is so impressive that it raises the question, could ancient Chinese engineers have had access to sophisticated knowledge of seismic activity and structural integrity? Could this tomb be evidence of an ancient, forgotten knowledge, one that could challenge our understanding of ancient engineering? But the most confounding aspect of many ancient Chinese underground tombs is not just their design, but the artifacts that accompany them. Artifacts that seem to come from places, or even times, far beyond the known limits of ancient China. In tombs from the Tang Dynasty and the Northern Wei, archaeologists have uncovered strange objects that appear to have been influenced by foreign cultures, even those from as far away as the Middle East or Europe. One of the most famous examples of this is the tomb of Emperor Yang of the Sui dynasty, circa 618 CE, which contained mysterious treasures, golden flasks, glass beads, and intricate foreign carvings that suggest a trade route or contact with distant lands. Could these tombs, with their alien artifacts, represent something more than just the rich burial practices of Chinese elites? Could they be telling us that the ancient Chinese were not only interacting with neighboring cultures, but were part of a global network, one that extended well beyond the Silk Road and across continents? Or perhaps, could they point to a lost period of history where the ancient Chinese had access to knowledge from civilizations that have since vanished from the historical record? The Yin ruins in Anyang provide another intriguing example. Here, archaeologists uncovered the tomb of a Shang dynasty king, surrounded by stone carvings, bronze artifacts, and jade figurines. The carvings themselves depicted elaborate cosmological scenes, gods and celestial beings that seemed to have knowledge of the heavens far more advanced than what we would expect from a society that had not yet mastered the wheel. Some scholars speculate that these intricate celestial designs may have been influenced by ancient observations of the night sky. astronomical insights that could have come from alien sources, or simply from a civilization whose understanding of the cosmos transcended what we once thought possible. And then there is the puzzle of the underground mausoleum of the Qin Emperor, known for his famous Terracotta army. This tomb, which has yet to be fully explored, is rumored to be filled with vast treasure, intricate maps, and possibly even mechanical inventions. Some say that the tomb's layout is designed to mirror the celestial realm, with chambers set up to represent various elements of the universe. If this is true, it raises the question, was this simply an emperor's final resting place, or was it a spiritual complex, a portal to another realm meant to accompany the emperor's soul on its journey to the afterlife? With these numerous underground tombs, we are left with more questions than answers. How did the ancient builders of China manage to create such elaborate, nearly impervious tombs that have withstood the ravages of time, earthquakes, and looters? What do the mysterious artifacts found in these tombs reveal about the cultural exchanges between ancient China and the rest of the world? And perhaps most curiously, what ancient knowledge or technologies may have been lost forever, hidden beneath the earth, waiting for discovery? The underground tombs of ancient China are like windows into a distant past, their secrets buried deep beneath the surface. And as we reflect on these fascinating sights, we cannot help but wonder, what other hidden truths might still lie in wait, shrouded in the darkness of these ancient burial chambers waiting to be unearthed? In the far western reaches of China, where the land rises sharply to meet the sky, there stands a mountain range that has long been the subject of both wonder and reverence. Known as the Kunlun Mountains, these towering peaks have captured the imagination of poets, mystics, and scholars for millennia. The mountains themselves are not simply a physical feature of the landscape. They are woven into the fabric of ancient myth and spirituality, regarded as the very axis of the world, the meeting point between heaven and earth. For centuries, they have been described not just as mountains, but as a realm where gods, immortals, and celestial beings dwell. A place where the ordinary and the divine are intertwined in ways that defy human understanding. The Kunlun Mountains, with their snow-capped peaks and mysterious caves, are often referred to in ancient texts as the home of the gods, the paradise of immortals. In the early Taoist tradition, they were believed to be the birthplace of the Fengdu, the primordial being who created the world. Later, they became associated with the realm of the celestial immortals, beings who had transcended mortality and lived beyond the earthly realm, cloistered in their heavenly abodes. The Shanhai Jing, or Classic of Mountains and Seas, an ancient Chinese text that dates back to the 4th century BCE, is one of the earliest sources to mention Kunlun as a place where celestial beings reside. Within its pages, the mountains are described as a mystical realm, inhabited by both gods and mythical creatures. It is said that within the Kunlun range lies the palace of the Queen Mother of the West, Huang, a powerful goddess who is often depicted as a key figure in Taoist mythology. She is said to be the ruler of immortality, a guardian of the sacred elixir of life, and the keeper of secrets known only to the most enlightened. This connection between the Kunlun Mountains and immortality brings forth another intriguing aspect of the legend. Huang, often portrayed as an ageless and beautiful goddess, was said to hold the power to grant eternal life to those who earned her favor. Her palace, a place of otherworldly beauty and serenity, is said to be located in the heart of the Kunlun Mountains, shrouded in mist and guarded by divine beings. The mountains themselves are believed to be a barrier between the mortal world and the celestial, a physical and spiritual threshold that one must cross to reach the realm of the gods. The stories surrounding Kunlun are not confined to just one deity. Throughout various mythologies, the mountains serve as the dwelling place of numerous immortals and legendary figures. One of the most famous is the Eight Immortals, a group of Taoist sages who are often depicted in folklore as traveling through the Kunlun mountains on their quest for immortality. They are believed to have ascended from these mountains, attaining enlightenment and divine status. Their journeys are said to be symbolic of the Taoist search for harmony between the physical world and the spiritual. Yet, the mystique of Kunlun goes beyond mere mythology. In addition to its association with immortality and the divine, the Kunlun Mountains are also said to house secrets that have fascinated generations of scholars and adventurers. According to various accounts, there are hidden caverns and ancient cities within the mountains, some of which are said to contain powerful artifacts, objects of incredible significance, capable of altering the course of history. These claims are often attributed to legends told by travelers and hermits who claim to have ventured into the heart of the mountains, only to be faced with forces beyond their comprehension. There are tales of strange geological formations, pools of liquid fire and floating islands, said to exist within Kunlun's remote corners, uncharted by any map. These accounts evoke the kind of wonder and skepticism that have persisted for centuries, adding layers of mystery to an already enigmatic place. Could these accounts be symbolic representations of the untamed power of nature? Or, as some speculate, are they based on actual physical phenomena, lost to history or hidden in the deepest recesses of the earth? In more recent times, Kunlun has been the subject of an archaeological and astronomical interest. Some researchers believe that the Kunlun Mountains may have been the site of ancient observatories, where early civilizations observed the heavens, mapping the stars and seeking to understand the cycles of nature. The alignment of certain peaks with specific celestial bodies has led some to speculate that the ancients had advanced astronomical knowledge far beyond what is traditionally understood. Could the mountains, with their seemingly mystical qualities, have been a place where the divine and the celestial were both studied and worshipped? Or were the so-called gods and immortals of Kunlun simply ancient astronomers, seeking to map the cosmos from a sacred vantage point? Some fringe theories go even further, suggesting that Kunlun could have been a portal to another dimension, a place where celestial beings and humans could interact. Such ideas often align with modern UFO and ancient astronaut theories, which propose that the myths surrounding gods and immortals may be based on encounters with extraterrestrial visitors. The idea that Kunlun was once a place where beings from the stars made contact with the ancient Chinese is certainly speculative, but it adds an intriguing layer to the legend of these mountains. Could the gods of ancient China have been more than mere metaphors? Could they have been visitors from far-off worlds, leaving behind a legacy of myths and symbols that are still not fully understood? While these theories remain unsubstantiated, they speak to the enduring mystery of the Kunlun Mountains. Whether we view them as the literal homes of gods or as symbols of nature's overwhelming power, the legend of Kunlun continues to captivate the imagination. In the quiet of the mountains, beneath the weight of the centuries, the echoes of ancient myths seem to linger, calling out to those who are willing to listen. But as we reflect on these legends, we are left with more questions than answers. Was Kunlun truly a divine abode, a realm of immortals that can only be reached through enlightenment or divine favor? Or is it a place of such staggering natural beauty and mystery that it became, in the minds of ancient peoples, a bridge between the human and the divine? The truth, like the mountains themselves, may remain hidden, shrouded in the mists of history, waiting to be discovered, or perhaps never to be known at all. Stretching across the vast, unforgiving landscapes of northern China, the Great Wall is a monument that has captured the imagination of historians and travelers for centuries. Its familiar image conjures thoughts of ancient warriors, impenetrable fortifications, and the might of a civilization determined to protect its borders. Yet, beneath the iconic sections that wind through well-known tourist destinations lies a far more mysterious side of the wall, forgotten, overlooked, and largely lost to time. We know the Great Wall as a series of imposing structures, built to protect the Chinese Empire from invading forces. However, many are unaware that not all of the wall's sections are as intact or as widely recognized. Some lie buried beneath dense forests, hidden beneath the sands of desert landscapes, or crumbled to dust, their once mighty stones scattered across the terrain. In many cases, these forgotten sections have faded into obscurity, abandoned long ago and overshadowed by the more famous stretches of the wall near Beijing, where the monument draws millions of visitors every year. These forgotten sections, often less explored, less documented, hold secrets that continue to perplex archaeologists and historians. In certain regions, the Great Wall's construction takes on a vastly different character. While much of the wall near Beijing is solid and uniform in its design, other parts appear fragmented, constructed from a wide variety of materials, and even built in vastly different styles. Some sections seem to defy the architectural principles that govern the main stretches of the wall, leaving many to ask, why were these parts built so differently? One of the more curious features of these forgotten sections is the variation in their construction materials. The primary sections of the wall, particularly those constructed during the Ming Dynasty, 1368 to 1644, are well known for their solid brickwork and stone. But the more remote, lesser-known sections were often constructed using materials that were more readily available in the local environment: mud, wood, and rubble. In some places, the walls were even built using sandstone, which, while easily accessible in certain regions, is far less durable than the standard bricks and stone used in the more famous portions. As we trace these forgotten pathways, a number of questions arise. Why were these sections built using such different techniques? Was there a need for quick construction due to pressing threats, or was the wall's role in these areas simply less critical? And why, in certain instances, do some of these walls appear to have been abandoned even before they could reach full maturity? Many of these sections are now scattered, their remains broken apart by the relentless passage of time. Erosion, natural disasters, and even human activity have taken a toll on the wall, causing entire stretches to deteriorate. Yet, in some instances, entire sections of the wall seem to have simply vanished from the records. Archaeologists have discovered that certain stretches of the wall were never properly documented, leaving behind only remnants and traces of their existence. There are those who believe that some of these forgotten sections were deliberately hidden. Why? Could there be something about these regions, something within the wall itself that was meant to remain concealed? Could there have been secretive military fortifications, perhaps designed to shield a more esoteric purpose that history has yet to uncover? While the vast majority of the Great Wall was constructed to defend against nomadic invaders from the north, there are theories suggesting that certain sections were built for more mysterious purposes: rituals, astronomical alignments, or even to protect sacred sites. Some suggest that the wall, with its isolated labyrinthine stretches, may have been a symbolic barrier, not just a physical one. Could there be sections that were designed not to stop invaders, but to contain something ancient and hidden from view? Could these lost stretches be linked to stories of mystical rituals or sacred places where secrets of the empire were guarded with such devotion that even the walls themselves became vessels of mystery? Some of the most intriguing discoveries have been made in the Gobi Desert, where stretches of the wall appear to have been swallowed by shifting dunes. These sections, in particular, seem to carry a strange whisper of the past, their outlines barely discernible against the vast stretches of sand. Did the wall, once a stronghold against northern invaders, face a different kind of threat here, one not from man, but from the unforgiving forces of nature? In other parts of the wall, the remnants seem to suggest that fighting against invaders wasn't the only challenge. The wild terrain itself, with its rugged mountains, desolate deserts, and torrential rains, may have led to the abandonment of certain sections long before they could be fully fortified. Evidence of collapsed fortresses, once proud watchtowers now reduced to ruins, point to the unpredictability of the land itself. But what of the sections that seem to have vanished entirely? Could there have been areas where the wall's construction was merely a temporary effort, only later abandoned? Some theorists suggest that these lost sections were part of an experimental design, one that was never meant to stand the test of time. Were these areas simply outposts, built with the expectation that they would be displaced by more permanent structures? Or could it be that there was something more deliberate at play, sections of the wall intended for purposes we can no longer understand? As we consider these mysteries, we can't help but wonder, what lies beneath the rubble and sand? Could the answers to the forgotten sections of the wall be hidden just out of reach, locked away in the mists of time? The Great Wall, after all, is a structure that has withstood the ages. Yet even it is not immune to the forces of history that can obscure or alter the truths we seek. As the Great Wall continues to stand as one of the world's most enduring symbols, its lesser-known and forgotten sections beckon us to look deeper, to peel back the layers of history and ask what else might be concealed within the vast expanse of this ancient fortress. The truth may yet lie hidden, waiting to be uncovered by those who are willing to venture off the beaten path into the forgotten corners of one of the world's greatest mysteries. The Han Dynasty, which spanned from 206 BCE to 220 CE, is often hailed as a golden age of Chinese civilization, marked by advancements in science, technology, and culture. Amid the sweeping changes that took place, a quiet mystery lingers, one that lies in the pages of ancient texts. These texts, often dense with philosophical musings and historical records, also seem to hold references to machines, devices of mechanical ingenuity that suggest a level of technological sophistication that might surprise even the most seasoned historians. At first glance, these references might seem like simple curiosities. Yet, as we look closer, they begin to raise intriguing questions. What were these machines? And more importantly, why were they described in such enigmatic terms? One of the most well-known references to ancient machines from the Han Dynasty appears in the writings of Zhang Heng, a scholar, inventor, and astronomer who lived during the Eastern Han period. Zhang Heng is often credited with creating one of the earliest seismoscope devices, capable of detecting earthquakes. His seismoscope was an extraordinary invention, a bronze vessel adorned with dragons, each holding a ball in its mouth, which would fall into the open mouth of one of 8 frogs positioned around the vessel, signaling the direction of the quake. This device, built in 132 CE, was a marvel of engineering for its time. Yet Zhang Heng's writings go beyond his seismoscope, touching on the existence of even more sophisticated machines. His mention of automated devices, water-powered mechanisms, and even early robotic systems leaves us wondering how much more advanced was Han engineering than we once believed? Zhang Heng's work is not an isolated case. The Han Dynasty, known for its impressive military, architectural, and engineering feats, may have been home to a society far more attuned to mechanics than we previously imagined. Several ancient texts, including the Wujing Zongyao, a military treatise written in 1044 CE, describe intricate war machines, ballistae, crossbows, and automated traps used to defend or attack fortified positions. What is particularly intriguing, however, is the mention of machines that were powered by water or wind, an early understanding of hydraulics and aerodynamics that we usually associate with much later technological advancements. In the Liu Xin writings, dated to around the 1st century BCE, we find references to automated carts and mechanical birds, devices said to move on their own, with no human intervention required. These descriptions are tantalizing, as they hint at the possibility of mechanized transportation and self-operating machines. Could the Han Dynasty have developed early versions of what we would now call robots or automation? Could these machines have been powered by simple gears and pulleys, water wheels, or wind, as was suggested by some of the earliest Chinese engineers? Or were they purely fantastical creations, exaggerated in the minds of the authors? One particularly compelling reference comes from the Shiji, or Records of the Grand Historian, a monumental work written by the historian Sima Qian in the 2nd century BCE. The text recounts the creation of a mechanical man by an inventor named Loulan, an influential figure in Chinese engineering and the father of many traditional tools and machines. According to the text, Loulan designed a wooden automaton, capable of performing tasks like walking and even singing. While the details of this machine are sketchy, the very notion of such a device challenges our understanding of Han technological capabilities. The idea of a mechanical man is not an isolated instance in ancient texts. Similar themes appear across various periods of Chinese history, from the Tang Dynasty's stories of mechanical servants to the Qing Dynasty's more elaborate descriptions of self-operating vessels and flying machines. Chinese literature seems to echo an enduring fascination with machines that can operate independently of human hands. So, how do we interpret these references? Were they early expressions of imagination, myths, and legends shaped by the cultural and mystical ideals of the time? Or were they actual glimpses into a sophisticated technology that existed far before its time, lost to history, and hidden away in the shadows of forgotten dynasties? Some scholars argue that these machines were simply symbols, representing the Taoist philosophy of aligning human beings with the natural forces of the universe. In Taoist thought, the universe operates according to natural mechanisms: the flow of qi, life energy, the motion of celestial bodies, and the balance of opposites. Perhaps these machines, mentioned in texts, were meant to reflect the harmonious flow of nature rather than actual mechanical inventions. They could represent, as some have suggested, automated metaphors, tools to express the delicate balance of the heavenly order. On the other hand, there are those who see these accounts as more than mere allegories. Could the Han engineers have built machines that mimicked life? If we accept that some of these texts were grounded in practical reality, the possibility of early mechanical inventions that were truly ahead of their time becomes more plausible. These might have been rudimentary machines, powered by the basic principles of water and wind, but they could have been extraordinary by the standards of their era. Could these references point to a level of technological understanding that was ultimately lost over time, only to be rediscovered many centuries later? It is not impossible that the Han Dynasty's machine builders were experimenting with the same concepts that would later appear in Renaissance Europe: gears, pulleys, and windmills, centuries before such devices were truly refined. In fact, many of the alchemical and engineering principles found in Taoist texts closely resemble those later used in Western Renaissance engineering, suggesting that there may have been an unrecognized flow of knowledge between East and West. Then there is the question of what happened to these inventions. The Han Dynasty was followed by political turmoil, and much of their technological knowledge was lost or destroyed during subsequent periods of instability. Wars, natural disasters, and the fall of the Han may have contributed to the disappearance of many of these inventions. Perhaps what remains in the ancient texts is just a shadow of the true technological marvels that once existed. As we delve deeper into the cryptic writings of the Han Dynasty, we are left with more questions than answers. Were these machines real, or were they the products of cultural imagination and metaphysical symbolism? If they were real, what happened to them? And what might we learn from these ancient texts, still shrouded in mystery, that could change the way we think about early technological advancements? The clues are all around us, hidden in ancient scrolls, buried in the histories of forgotten engineers, and encoded in the myths of a time long past. The story of the ancient machines of the Han Dynasty may still be unfolding. What truths are still waiting to be uncovered, hidden beneath the layers of time? Only time will tell. As the sun rises over the ancient landscapes of China, its light traces the slow, steady arc of time across the heavens. For millennia, the Chinese have looked to the sky to understand the passage of hours and days. Among the many tools they created to mark this celestial rhythm, one of the most fascinating is the sundial. These instruments, designed to measure the movement of time through the position of the sun's shadow, have a long and storied history in China. But what makes the ancient Chinese sundials truly remarkable is not just their ability to tell time, but their uncanny precision, a level of accuracy that seems almost impossible given the era in which they were crafted. One of the earliest known Chinese sundials was developed during the Han Dynasty, more than 2,000 years ago. These early timekeeping devices were simple in form, but sophisticated in their design. A sundial typically consists of a flat surface marked with the hours of the day, and a gnomon, or a stick, that casts a shadow as the sun moves across the sky. As the hours pass, the shadow shifts along the surface, indicating the time of day. Yet, even by the standards of the time, the Chinese were able to create sundials that appeared to function with an astonishing degree of accuracy. How, in an age before precise mechanical instruments, could these ancient inventors achieve such remarkable precision? In ancient Chinese culture, the concept of time was not only practical, but also philosophical. The passage of time was seen as part of the natural order, inextricably linked to the cycles of the heavens and the earth. This connection between cosmic and terrestrial events was woven into the very fabric of Chinese thinking. For the Chinese, the ability to measure time accurately was a matter of great importance. It was believed that a perfect understanding of time could lead to harmony between the human world and the natural world. Sundials were not merely functional. They were symbolic of the delicate balance that governed both the universe and the individual. As we examine the sundials of ancient China, it becomes apparent that these devices were not just tools, but deeply mathematical objects, products of a culture that had a profound understanding of geometry and astronomy. The Chinese had developed complex systems of astronomical calculation, using calendars to track the movements of the sun, the moon, and the stars. The ancient Chinese astronomers seemed to possess an uncanny ability to predict celestial events, such as eclipses, with remarkable precision. The sundials they created were an extension of this astronomical knowledge. Take, for instance, the Tang Dynasty sundials that have been discovered. Some of these devices show an incredible level of detail, with markings for not just the hours, but the minutes and even seconds. This kind of precision would seem remarkable even by today's standards, yet these ancient sundials were crafted centuries ago, at a time when the means to measure time so accurately were rudimentary at best. How did they achieve this level of sophistication without the aid of modern technology? One explanation lies in the meticulous work of Chinese astronomers and mathematicians, who were able to apply advanced geometric principles to the construction of their sundials. These early scientists understood the movement of the sun in the sky and used that knowledge to create extremely precise angles on their sundials, ensuring that the shadow cast by the gnomon would track the movement of time with remarkable accuracy. It is said that the sundials used in the Tang and Song dynasties were designed with such precision that they could be adjusted according to the time of year, compensating for the shift in the sun's position as the seasons changed. This adjustment would have required an intimate understanding of the Earth's tilt, the ecliptic plane, and other celestial mechanics, concepts that would not become widely understood in the West for centuries. But there is a deeper mystery surrounding the precision of these sundials. How did the ancient Chinese develop such advanced knowledge of the heavens? There are several theories, but none provide definitive answers. Some suggest that the Chinese were able to observe the heavens with remarkable clarity, aided by the clear skies and relative lack of light pollution in ancient China. Others argue that Chinese astronomers may have accessed knowledge passed down from earlier civilizations, possibly from ancient Babylonian or Mesopotamian sources, where astronomical observations were also highly advanced. A more speculative theory suggests that the ancient Chinese may have possessed ancient, lost knowledge, perhaps from a civilization predating known history, knowledge that has been obscured by the passage of time. This theory posits that there may have been a golden age of astronomical and mathematical knowledge, passed down through secret teachings or esoteric wisdom, only to be forgotten or lost as dynasties rose and fell. Could it be that the precision of the Chinese sundials was the result of this lost, secret knowledge? Some have also speculated that the Chinese may have had access to astronomical devices that were far more advanced than anything we can trace today. In particular, there are legends of celestial machines or mechanical wonders said to have been created by early Chinese astronomers to measure time and track the movement of the stars. These mysterious devices are rarely discussed in historical records, but their existence is hinted at in ancient texts. Could it be that these sundials were not just simple tools but part of a much larger, sophisticated system of astronomical instruments that have since vanished from history? Another puzzling question concerns the materials used to craft these sundials. The Chinese were known to work with a wide variety of metals, stone, and ceramics, but the level of craftsmanship required to achieve such precision in ancient sundials suggests that their makers had access to exceptionally advanced techniques. How were these ancient craftsmen able to carve such intricate details, and how did they ensure such consistency across multiple sundials? The materials used were often weather-resistant and designed to last, raising the question of how they were able to preserve the accuracy of these instruments for centuries. While many of the sundials from ancient China have been lost to time, some of the surviving artifacts continue to intrigue scholars and enthusiasts alike. Their intricate carvings and precise markings suggest that they were far more than mere timekeeping devices. They were symbols of the ancient Chinese quest for harmony and balance, in which the rhythm of the cosmos was woven into the daily fabric of life. As we look at these enigmatic devices, we are left with lingering questions. What drove the ancient Chinese to pursue such precision in their sundials? Was it the pursuit of philosophical understanding of time, or was there something more, perhaps a connection to a higher knowledge that has since been lost to history? The answers may remain hidden, but the precision of these ancient instruments leaves us to wonder, what truths lie beneath the surface of time itself? As the mist rises from the earth, curling around the foot of the tomb of the Ming emperors, a procession of stone statues stands solemnly in place, their silent eyes gazing toward an unseen horizon. These statues are not mere art or decoration. They are guardians of a world that stretches beyond the mortal realm, stationed along the Spirit Way, a ceremonial pathway leading to the final resting places of the emperors of the Ming Dynasty. But who were these stone figures meant to protect, and what did they symbolize about the Chinese understanding of the afterlife? The Spirit Way, which stretches for nearly 2 miles and is lined with an array of statues, is more than just a road. It is a spiritual bridge between the world of the living and the realm of the dead. The statues that guard this pathway are intricately crafted: lions, horses, camels, and generals, each one bearing an air of solemn dignity. Each figure represents a spiritual protector or a mystical entity, and their purpose is far more profound than simple decoration. Their presence suggests that the afterlife, for the ancient Chinese, was a world as complex and detailed as the one in which they lived. This path, Spirit Way, not only guides the spirits of the deceased, but also hints at a deep-set belief in the continuation of existence after death. The ancient Chinese viewed the afterlife as a place where the deceased would journey toward a final judgment, where their deeds on earth would determine their fate. It was a realm where ancestors could continue to exert influence, protect their descendants, and maintain balance in the cosmos. This world was not just imagined, it was meticulously crafted in physical form, an ethereal mirror of the living world, rich with symbols and spiritual meaning. As we stand before these statues, questions inevitably arise. What were these statues truly meant to convey? How did they fit into the larger system of Chinese spiritual beliefs, especially regarding death and the afterlife? The figures themselves offer an answer of sorts, but the deeper meanings they carry remain a mystery. In the Ming Dynasty, it was believed that death was not an end, but rather a continuation of life in another form. Ancestors, revered and respected, were thought to continue watching over the living, their spirits inhabiting the realm beyond the grave. The Spirit Way statues were not only representations of the deceased emperor's power, but were intended to safeguard their journey into the afterlife. Lions, often seen standing proudly on the path, symbolized strength and protection. Generals, armored and resolute, were believed to ward off evil spirits and ensure safe passage to the spirit world. Horses galloped along the way, representing speed and the swift movement between the worlds. Each statue had a function, a specific role in the grand design of spiritual and cosmic order. The entire Spirit Way is aligned with Feng Shui principles, a design rooted in harmony between humans and the environment. The statues were strategically placed, creating an energy flow that ensured the protection of the tombs while guiding the spirits of the deceased into the afterlife. This careful attention to alignment and design reinforces the idea that death, in ancient Chinese thought, was not an isolated or insignificant event. It was intricately tied to the forces of nature and the larger cosmological order. But the statue's mystery runs deeper still. These stone guardians, with their carved expressions and poised forms, seem to hold within them a hidden language, one that reaches beyond the immediate symbolism of protection and strength. Could there be deeper meanings embedded in their design? Could these figures represent something more, something beyond the physical realm? Scholars have long pondered whether the spirit statues could have been more than mere representations of guardians. Some suggest that these figures were actually intended to embody the spirits of deceased ancestors or supernatural beings. If so, this would imply that the statues were not static objects, but dynamic symbols of spiritual power, living entities of a sort, acting as conduits for the energies of the afterlife. This raises the question, what role did these statues play in the spiritual rituals surrounding death? How were they used in the ceremonies that marked the transition of the soul from one world to the next? It's possible that the Spirit Way statues served as physical focal points for prayers, offerings, and sacrifices. The ancient Chinese often believed that by honoring these statues, the spirits could be appeased and the transition to the afterlife made smoother. The Spirit Way then becomes not just a path to the tombs, but a spiritual ritual in itself, one that ensured the deceased would have the protection they needed in the realm beyond. But not all interpretations of the Spirit Way statues are so grounded in the physical world. For some, the presence of these figures along the path is connected to a deeper, more mystical layer of Chinese spirituality, where the statues serve as metaphysical beacons. Some fringe theories suggest that the figures represent celestial beings, or even ancient extraterrestrial forces, beings whose influence shaped early Chinese civilization. These ideas, while speculative, point to the possibility that the afterlife, as envisioned by the Chinese, was not only a continuation of life, but also a gateway to far-reaching mystical realms. The use of animals and mythical creatures, dragons, phoenixes, and tigers, only deepens the sense that these statues are not merely functional objects, but part of a greater spiritual code. Dragons, in particular, were thought to hold the power of transformation and the ability to bridge realms. Their presence on the spirit way may suggest that the path to the afterlife was not simply a journey of death, but also of metamorphosis, in which the deceased could transition into a form of higher existence. Despite these theories, much of the meaning behind the spirit way statues remains elusive. Some experts argue that the statues were primarily symbolic, created to honor and protect the emperor's journey to the afterlife, while others believe that they served as physical manifestations of spiritual concepts, grounding the ethereal in the material world. Even more fascinating are those who speculate that the statues were intended to channel the energies of the deceased, ensuring that their spirits would remain powerful and active, continuing to exert influence over the living long after death. Perhaps the most enduring mystery of the Spirit Way statues is not just their meaning, but their purpose, how they fit into the larger belief system of the time. Were they merely markers, symbolic of a passage between two worlds? Or were they a part of something more profound, an active spiritual force that engaged with the living world in ways we can no longer fully comprehend? As we continue to explore the rich history of the Spirit Way and its statues, we are reminded that ancient Chinese spirituality was a complex and intricate system, where the lines between the living and the dead were often blurred. Perhaps the true mystery lies not in the statues themselves, but in the powerful belief that they embodied an understanding of death and the afterlife that stretched far beyond the tangible world and into realms we have yet to fully understand. What truths might still be hidden beneath the surface, waiting to be uncovered? Only time and further exploration may tell. Deep in the labyrinthine heart of ancient Chinese mythology, there exists a creature of fearsome power, one whose very name evokes images of danger and mysticism. The nine-headed serpent, or Jutu Shi, is a figure wrapped in enigma, its form entwined in the dark recesses of ancient legends and cryptic texts. To this day, it remains an enduring symbol of destruction, rebirth, and the unknown. A creature so powerful that its very existence challenges the limits of the natural world. Imagine a serpent, its scales glistening under the moonlight, winding its way through the dark forests and mountain passes. But this is no ordinary snake. The creature has 9 heads, each one hissing, darting, and striking with terrifying precision. Its presence in ancient tales often symbolizes not only physical danger, but a more symbolic force, a powerful entity that resides at the borders between order and chaos. And yet, despite its fearsome nature, the myth of the 9-headed serpent has been obscured in such a way that we are left wondering, is it merely a myth, or is there a deeper meaning hidden within its many heads? In the Shanhai Jing, one of the most important early Chinese texts on mythical geography, the 9-headed serpent is described in vivid detail. The creature is said to reside in the mountains of the West, a land untouched by the everyday world. Its heads, like the twisting branches of a cursed tree, are often portrayed as independent entities, each one capable of wielding its own power. The myth paints a picture of a creature whose mere existence embodies both the complexity and the dangers of the natural world. Its multiple heads symbolize not only the divided nature of life, with all its conflicting forces, but also the unpredictable fury of nature itself, untamed and wild. The serpent is often seen in the context of heroic sagas, where great warriors, sages, and kings are called upon to confront it. These stories vary, but one element is constant. The confrontation between man and beast is not merely one of strength, but of wisdom and cleverness. The 9-headed serpent is a powerful adversary, not because of its brute strength, but because it embodies the unseen forces of the universe, the chaos that lies just beyond the veil of human understanding. Some ancient texts even describe the creature as having the ability to regenerate its heads, making it nearly immortal. For every head that is cut off, 2 more take its place, an image that can evoke both fear and fascination. But where does this myth come from? Is there a kernel of truth beneath the layers of supernatural imagination, or is it simply a product of ancient storytellers' creativity? As we delve into the historical and cultural context of the nine-headed serpent, we find that its origins are far from clear. Ancient Chinese mythologies, like those of many cultures, are often interwoven with symbols and motifs that evolve over time. The serpent itself has long been a symbol in Chinese culture, representing everything from fertility to destruction. The dragon, one of China's most iconic mythological creatures, is often depicted as a serpent-like figure, though typically with a single head. The addition of multiple heads to the serpent in this myth could be a way of enhancing its symbolic power, making it a more formidable adversary in the stories that follow. However, some scholars have proposed that the nine-headed serpent might not be entirely a product of mythology. In fact, a few theorists suggest that it could have been inspired by ancient encounters with real-world creatures, perhaps snakes or other reptiles that appeared unusual or terrifying to early humans. Some believe that extinct species of serpents, which may have had unusual features or multiple heads due to genetic mutations, could have inspired such stories. Is it possible that the nine-headed serpent is a distant echo of ancient encounters with these creatures? Could this myth be rooted in something that was once observed, perhaps even passed down through generations as a way of explaining the mysterious and inexplicable? Others argue that the serpent represents cosmic forces, not a physical creature, but a symbol of cosmic chaos or balance. The serpent's multiple heads could symbolize the complexity of the natural world, where forces of good and evil, creation and destruction, are ever in flux. In this sense, the nine-headed serpent would not just be a mythical beast, but an embodiment of the duality of life itself. With every head representing a different aspect of existence, life, death, wisdom, folly, creation, destruction, the serpent becomes a metaphor for the world in all its complexity. The hero who confronts it, therefore, is not only battling a creature, but also facing the intricate web of forces that shape the universe. Does the serpent reflect a world of conflicting elements, a cosmic battleground where all things must ultimately find balance? Some of the more speculative theories surrounding the nine-headed serpent involve extraterrestrial or supernatural origins. The notion of multiple heads, regenerating, powerful, and seemingly immortal, can seem almost unnatural to the point of suggesting an unnatural origin. Could this myth be a symbolic representation of a long-lost alien encounter? Some suggest that the serpent, with its bizarre and otherworldly characteristics, may have been a means for early civilizations to record encounters with beings or forces beyond the stars. The concept of multiple regenerating heads could be an ancient symbol for a race of beings with advanced regenerative capabilities, or even extraterrestrial technology that was misunderstood by early peoples. Intriguingly, some historical accounts mention shamans or priests who were said to wield the power to summon serpents, using them in rituals or as divine messengers. Was the nine-headed serpent a part of these mystical practices, a tool for communicating with the divine or a means of channeling otherworldly forces? This idea suggests that the serpent could have been seen not as an enemy to be defeated, but as a powerful ally, perhaps even a guardian of ancient secrets or knowledge. In the end, the myth of the nine-headed serpent remains as elusive as it is compelling. The creature exists in a space between the realms of reality and imagination, where history, symbolism, and the unknown intertwine. The questions surrounding the serpent, its origins, its meanings, its role in ancient Chinese culture, remain unanswered. Is it simply a myth? A product of a time when people tried to explain the forces of the universe through story? Or could it be the echo of an ancient truth, a representation of something that existed, or perhaps still exists, just beyond our grasp? Perhaps the mystery of the nine-headed serpent is not one to be solved, but to be wondered at, a reminder of the mysteries that lie hidden beneath the surface of our history. Nestled deep within the serene, still walls of China's ancient Buddhist caves, there exists an eerie and compelling mystery, one that has survived the ravages of time, wars, and human curiosity. These caves, often carved into the towering cliffs of the Gobi Desert or hidden in the remote reaches of the Dunhuang Oasis, house not only relics of spiritual devotion but an enigmatic collection of paintings that some believe depict not just the holy figures of Buddhism, but ghostly beings, spectral figures whose origins and meanings remain shrouded in darkness. The caves in question are part of the Mogao Caves, a vast complex of over 700 Buddhist temples that date back as far as the 4th century CE. Known as the Caves of the Thousand Buddhas, these sacred sites are home to some of the most intricate and beautifully preserved Buddhist artwork in the world. Within their walls, frescoes and murals depict serene Buddhas, bodhisattvas, and divine guardians. But amid these revered depictions are unsettling figures, ghostly faces and shadowy forms, strange and unfamiliar, unlike the peaceful and divine beings that one might expect from a religious site. As you wander through the caves, your eyes are drawn to an unassuming wall, tucked away in a quiet corner. At first glance, it appears to be just another Buddhist painting, but upon closer inspection, something unsettling catches your eye. Ethereal faces, distorted figures, and shimmering forms emerge from the shadows, their features unclear but unmistakably human. These are the so-called ghost paintings, a collection of mysterious artworks that have puzzled historians, archaeologists, and art experts for centuries. What sets these paintings apart is not just their haunting appearance, but their location and purpose. The Mogao Caves, as centers of Buddhist practice and worship, were meant to convey the teachings of Buddhism, offering glimpses into the realms of enlightenment and divinity. Yet here, amid depictions of enlightened monks and heavenly beings, are these ghostly images. What could they represent? Why are these spectral figures interwoven with sacred themes? Historically, the idea of ghosts and spirits has been an integral part of Chinese culture, deeply embedded in both religious and everyday life. Chinese Buddhism often embraced concepts of the afterlife, the spirit world, and the delicate balance between the living and the dead. Could these ghostly figures be a form of spiritual protection, or perhaps representations of the souls of the deceased, wandering between realms in search of peace? These spirits might have been painted as symbols of the impermanence of human life, reminding the faithful that life is fleeting and death is inevitable. Yet the ghost paintings present a deeper mystery. While the rest of the artwork in the caves is clearly religious in its intent, these figures are unusual in their expression and form. Unlike other depictions, which feature graceful postures and tranquil faces, the ghostly figures appear to be in states of agitation or anguish. Their eyes, though almost always obscured or indistinct, seem to stare directly at the viewer, as if caught in a moment of profound emotional turmoil. Are these figures simply symbolic of the suffering that must be overcome on the path to enlightenment? Or do they represent something darker, a warning or an omen that remains unclear? Some art historians and scholars have suggested that these ghostly figures could be connected to ancient shamanistic practices that predate the arrival of Buddhism in China. Before the spread of Buddhism, the shamanistic traditions of China often involved rituals to appease the spirits of the dead, which were thought to haunt the living if not properly honored. Perhaps these paintings are remnants of a time when spirit worship was still prevalent, and the blending of Buddhist iconography with older belief systems created these strange, spectral beings. But even more intriguing are the speculative theories that have emerged over the years. Some believe that the ghost paintings may have been created as a form of ritualistic magic, perhaps tied to the practice of Taoism or alchemy, both of which often intersected with Buddhist teachings during the Tang Dynasty. In this light, the spectral figures could represent the interaction between the material world and the spiritual plane, a visual manifestation of the magical forces at work. These theories suggest that the spirits depicted were not merely symbolic, but were intended to invite or ward off supernatural forces, perhaps to protect the caves or the monks who meditated within them. As is often the case with ancient mysteries, the more one delves into these ghostly artworks, the more questions arise. Were these figures created by skilled monks who sought to capture an otherworldly essence? Or were they the work of artists influenced by dreams or visions? Some have even proposed that the ghostly imagery could be the result of hallucinogenic substances used by the cave's inhabitants, which were thought to induce altered states of consciousness in order to commune with spirits or access higher spiritual realms. The possibility that these figures represent the visions of those who dwelled in these caves, meditating for years in isolation, adds an almost mystical element to the mystery. In recent years, the emergence of advanced technologies, like infrared and multispectral imaging, has allowed modern researchers to uncover hidden layers of artwork within the caves. In some instances, new ghostly figures have been revealed beneath the surface of older paintings, images that had previously been obscured by centuries of dust and weathering. Could these hidden layers hold further secrets? Are the ghost paintings perhaps part of a larger, forgotten tradition of art? One that was intended to be hidden away, only to be uncovered by future generations? Perhaps the most unsettling aspect of these ghostly figures is the mystery of their intended purpose. Were they created to be seen, or were they meant to remain hidden from view, waiting for someone, or something, to uncover them at the right moment? As with many ancient mysteries, these ghostly paintings seem to exist in a liminal space, existing between the tangible and the intangible, between life and death, between the seen and the unseen. They may have been created as an offering, a prayer, or even as a form of spiritual experimentation, but their true meaning may never be fully understood. The ghost paintings of the Mogao caves remain one of the great enigmas of ancient Chinese history. Whether they are remnants of forgotten religious practices, a record of mystical visions, or something even more unknown, they continue to haunt the caves in which they are housed. As modern explorers and researchers step cautiously through these sacred sites, the question lingers: what other mysteries remain hidden beneath the surface of these ancient walls, waiting to be discovered? And so, as we step away from these darkened caves, we are left with a quiet but compelling thought. What if the paintings are not just relics of the past? What if they are still watching us, waiting for something or someone to uncover their secrets? As we journey deeper into the enigmatic realms of ancient Chinese mythology, we are confronted with a story that echoes a familiar tale, one that has been passed down through various cultures, from Mesopotamia to the biblical texts. This is the story of a tower, a unified people, and their language. The Tower of Babel, as it is known in the Western tradition, is a symbol of human ambition and divine retribution. But could this myth have roots that extend far beyond the Middle East, all the way to ancient China? A strange intersection of myth, history, and speculation suggests that the Tower of Babel, or something remarkably similar, might appear in the sacred texts and legends of China, twisting the fabric of time and space to weave together the ancient threads of two seemingly disparate cultures. In the ancient Chinese cosmology, there exists a myth that bears an uncanny resemblance to the story of the Tower of Babel. This is the tale of Fengdu, the primordial being who, according to myth, was said to have separated the heavens from the earth, creating the world as we know it. But what if we shift our gaze to a lesser-known story, tucked away in the folds of ancient Taoist and Buddhist scriptures? Here, we encounter the Jutian Xuannu, or the Nine Heavens, a concept that may point toward an ancient tower that connected the heavens and the earth, a colossal structure built by humanity to challenge the gods themselves. The legend of Jutian Xuannu tells of a mystical mountain, Kunlun Mountain, often described as a sacred peak where heaven and earth meet. In some interpretations of the myth, this mountain is not simply a natural formation but a towering structure, a bridge between the celestial and the mortal realms. Could it be that the ancient Chinese saw Kunlun not just as a place of divine power, but as a symbolic tower, where humans once tried to reach the heavens, much like the story of Babel? The ancient Chinese concept of heavenly architecture further adds to this intriguing possibility. Within the lore of the Xia Dynasty, there are references to sacred buildings and temples that were designed to represent the cosmic axis, the connection between the world of the gods and the realm of the living. Some have speculated that these structures, while not literal towers, may have inspired a metaphysical vision of a tower capable of bridging the gap between mortal life and divine order. But how does this compare to the more well-known story of the Tower of Babel as told in the Bible? According to the Bible, the Tower of Babel was built by the descendants of Noah, who sought to build a structure that reached the heavens. But God, displeased by their arrogance, scattered the people and confused their language, preventing them from completing the tower. This divine intervention left behind a ruined structure and a fragmented humanity, speaking in many tongues and forever separated from one another. Is it possible that the Chinese myth mirrors this story of human ambition, divine punishment, and separation? While there are no direct parallels in the historical record, some scholars have suggested that the concept of heavenly towers could have been shared across ancient civilizations through cultural exchanges that are difficult to trace. Could these stories of hubris and divine retribution have crossed paths as ancient peoples traded not just goods, but myths and ideas along the Silk Road or through maritime trade routes? The most striking similarity between the Chinese and Mesopotamian versions of the tower myth lies in the central theme of human unity and the resulting divine punishment. In both myths, humanity is unified under a singular purpose: to reach the heavens, to break through the limitations of their mortal existence, and to challenge the divine order. And in both stories, this unity leads to divine wrath, whether it is God scattering the people of Babel or the gods of China intervening in the affairs of the mortal realm. The consequence of defying the natural order is clear. But there is another layer to this mystery. If we look at the ancient texts of Chinese cosmology, some scholars have pointed to celestial phenomena, such as the appearance of comets, supernovae, and eclipses, that may have inspired the myth of the tower reaching the heavens. In this view, the tower is not merely a symbol of human ambition, but a reflection of the sky itself, a celestial axis that connects the heavens with the earth. Ancient Chinese astronomers often saw the heavens as a mirror of human existence, where events in the sky were seen as omens or reflections of human behavior. Could the idea of building a physical structure that connected earth and sky have been inspired by these celestial signs, representing humanity's quest for understanding and control over the cosmos? The ancient Chinese scrolls also contain accounts of mythical cities and lost civilizations, suggesting that once, long ago, there were great cities or structures built by a people who sought to transcend their earthly existence. Some have even drawn comparisons between these ancient Chinese cities and the Babylonian ziggurats, massive stepped structures designed to reach the heavens, suggesting that the idea of building a tower was not confined to the Middle East, but might have been a shared motif across the ancient world. However, the Tower of Babel story, as it relates to Chinese mythology, is not without its doubts and discrepancies. For one, there are no definitive archaeological findings that support the existence of such a tower in China. The Kunlun mountain, while a sacred symbol, has never been proven to be a literal structure designed by humans to connect heaven and earth. And even though there are references to mythical cities, there is no clear evidence of a lost civilization that built a tower on the scale described in the Babel myth. Yet the question lingers. Could the Tower of Babel myth have evolved and spread across civilizations, taking on different forms and meanings as it encountered new cultures and ideas? And might this shared mythic structure provide us with a deeper understanding of the ancient human condition, the quest for immortality, and the desire to transcend our limitations? What we do know is that both Chinese and Mesopotamian civilizations were deeply concerned with the nature of the heavens and the earth, the relationship between mortals and immortals, and the eternal search for meaning and connection. As different as their cultures were, they both expressed this search in the form of towering structures, whether literal or symbolic, that reached toward the heavens and ultimately toward the divine. In the end, the mystery remains unsolved. The story of the Tower of Babel may not have originated in China, but it's possible that echoes of this myth reached across cultures, adapting and evolving in different lands, including the ancient Chinese world. The question remains, could the myth of a tower to the heavens, a symbol of human ambition and divine punishment, be more universal than we imagine, stretching across time, space, and culture? As we reflect on these ancient myths, one thing seems clear: the desire to reach the heavens, to challenge the gods, and to understand the mysteries of existence is a timeless human trait. And perhaps the truth of these stories is not just in their origins, but in the way they continue to resonate with us today. Imagine standing in a dimly lit room, the air thick with the smell of old paper, centuries of dust lingering in the stillness. Before you lies a collection of ancient manuscripts, fragile, yellowed silk scrolls that have survived the ravages of time. These delicate sheets carry within them secrets and messages, hidden in plain sight, waiting to be uncovered. For centuries, scholars and historians have studied these manuscripts, only to find themselves drawn into an ongoing puzzle. What is truly hidden in the intricate patterns, the symbols, and the writings that adorn these ancient silks? The discovery of silk manuscripts dates back to ancient China, where they served as vital tools for recording knowledge, history, and wisdom. Silk, prized for its smooth texture and strength, was used by the Han Dynasty, 206 BCE, 220 CE, to produce written records that were both durable and portable. These manuscripts, often adorned with detailed calligraphy, sketches, and maps, were repositories of knowledge. But could they also conceal something more? Among the most intriguing of these documents are the texts found in the tombs of the Han nobility, where silk scrolls were often buried alongside their owners to ensure that their wisdom would pass into the afterlife. But within these tombs, something unusual began to emerge. Scholars found that some of these silk manuscripts were not entirely straightforward. Symbols and words on the scrolls appeared to be encoded, their meanings obscured by cryptic layers that suggested hidden messages or even secret societies. Some even hinted at the possibility of extraterrestrial influences or knowledge far beyond what was understood at the time. A particularly notable example of these enigmatic silk manuscripts was found in Sanxingdui, a Han tomb complex near Changsha, in the 1970s. Among the burial goods was a silk manuscript, now known as the Tao Te Ching, a central text of Taoist philosophy, which contained more than just philosophy. It contained hidden symbols. One of the most perplexing aspects of this scroll was the presence of geometric patterns and astronomical references that seemed out of place for its time. Could these be remnants of a secret language? A cipher designed to keep certain truths locked away? Or were they something else, perhaps astrological charts that contained a map to an ancient secret, only understood by a select few. The Mawangdui texts also included medical writings that were far ahead of their time, suggesting a sophisticated understanding of anatomy and healing. The way the scrolls detailed the pathways of qi, the life force that flows through the body, was not just a reflection of philosophical thought, but also appeared to have an intricate mathematical structure embedded in the layout of the text itself. Some scholars have even speculated that these writings might encode mathematical formulas that could unlock knowledge related to advanced technologies, suggesting that ancient Chinese civilization might have known more about the world than previously imagined. But not all of the hidden messages found in silk manuscripts can be so easily explained. In recent years, a mystery surrounding the use of invisible ink in certain scrolls has gained attention. Some believe that certain symbols, imperceptible to the naked eye, might have been imprinted on these silk scrolls, revealed only under specific conditions, such as exposure to certain chemicals or changes in temperature. Could these hidden inks have been used by ancient scholars or secret societies to pass on forbidden knowledge? Or perhaps they were used to protect the scrolls from prying eyes, ensuring that the most powerful knowledge was not lost, but instead kept safe and undisturbed. What is perhaps most perplexing about these silk manuscripts is the lack of context. Many of the writings are isolated, not tied to any specific known tradition or sect. The symbols, while similar to those used in other ancient Chinese texts, have yet to be fully decoded. Some researchers suggest that they may represent the early form of a secret code, a precursor to the later systems of writing used by the Tang Dynasty, 618 to 907 CE, and beyond. These theories evoke images of a hidden network of thinkers, alchemists, and sages, communicating in ways that bypassed the normal avenues of knowledge transmission. One theory that has begun to capture the imagination of both historians and conspiracy theorists alike is the possibility that the silk manuscripts encoded advanced knowledge, possibly even a form of technology. Some speculate that these documents might hold the key to forgotten technologies, ranging from astronomy to alchemy, secrets that were intentionally concealed to prevent their misuse. Could these ancient Chinese scholars have discovered lost technologies, tools and weapons so powerful that they were sealed away in symbols and codes? Then, there's the mysterious presence of celestial references in these manuscripts. On several silk scrolls, strange symbols resembling astronomical maps can be found, indicating a sophisticated knowledge of the stars. Some have even speculated that these maps might not be representations of the stars visible from Earth, but rather depictions of constellations and planets beyond our solar system. Is it possible that the ancient Chinese, through their celestial observations, understood more about the cosmos than we realize today? At the center of these theories is the idea that these ancient texts may have been used to pass down forbidden knowledge, perhaps knowledge of a time before recorded history, passed along by extraterrestrial visitors or even ancient civilizations now lost to time. Could there have been interactions between the early Chinese and other, perhaps more advanced cultures? The evidence is sparse, but some scholars point to the strange intricacies found in the silk scrolls as potential indicators of alien influence, ideas so foreign to ancient China that they required special ciphers to hide their meaning. As the evidence mounts, it becomes increasingly difficult to ignore the possibility that these ancient manuscripts could hold more than what they appear to. Yet, the truth remains elusive, locked in symbols and codes that even modern technology has yet to fully decode. Whether they encode lost wisdom, celestial maps, or something even more extraordinary, these silk scrolls continue to hold their secrets tightly. What's most striking about these hidden messages is how they raise more questions than answers. What were the ancient Chinese really trying to convey through these manuscripts? Was it an attempt to preserve advanced knowledge, protect secrets from foreign invaders, or pass down wisdom from a forgotten time? The mystery lingers, offering a tantalizing glimpse into a world of knowledge that we may never fully understand. And as we look back on these silk scrolls, we are left to wonder, in the complex threads of history, could there be a message hidden beneath the surface, one waiting to be uncovered? Perhaps the greatest mystery of all is not just what is written, but what remains unspoken, waiting for the right moment to be revealed. As you stand in the midst of an ancient Chinese temple, the scent of incense filling the air, the soft hum of the world outside seems to fall away. Around you, towering columns and intricate carvings stretch toward the heavens, each detail carefully placed, as if the very stones were in conversation with the earth beneath and the stars above. Here, in the heart of China's oldest temples, an invisible energy hums through the air, a force believed by many to be the embodiment of Feng Shui. But what if this unseen energy is more than a mere belief? What if it's part of a greater, more ancient mystery woven into the fabric of China's architectural legacy? Feng Shui, the ancient art of arranging space to harmonize with the natural world, has long been regarded as a mystical science. Its roots trace back more than 3,000 years, influencing not only the design of temples and palaces, but the way Chinese society approached landscapes, homes, and even cities. But while Feng Shui is often associated with personal well-being and prosperity, its role in temple design is far more profound. The alignments of these sacred structures, the very angles at which they face the elements, suggest something deeper, a connection between the human spirit, the earth, and the universe itself. In the heart of Xi'an, an ancient city that was once the capital of several dynasties, stands the giant Wild Goose Pagoda, an iconic Buddhist temple originally constructed in the Tang Dynasty. The temple, with its towering structure and intricate roof lines, doesn't simply stand against the landscape. It is aligned with specific cardinal directions, precisely in line with certain celestial bodies, such as the rising sun. This is no accident. It is a testament to the ancient belief that the temple itself was a vessel of cosmic energy, channeling the flow of vital forces from heaven to earth. The position of its doors, the curve of its roof, even the placement of its pillars. Each element was designed to ensure that the temple would harmonize with the flow of qi, the invisible life force that Feng Shui practitioners believe sustains all living things. But what makes the alignments of these ancient temples even more fascinating is the mystery of their exactness. How did ancient builders, without the aid of modern technology, achieve such precise measurements? Was it merely intuition? Or was there some ancient, secret knowledge guiding their hands? Some researchers have pointed to the possibility of ancient astronomical knowledge, star charts, celestial alignments, and even sophisticated instruments lost to time. Could these early architects have known how to manipulate celestial forces to influence the energetic flow of a temple? And if so, why did they choose to imbue their structures with this knowledge? The Temple of Heaven in Beijing provides another compelling example. Situated at the southern end of the city, this imperial sacrificial altar aligns perfectly with the cardinal directions. However, the mystery deepens when you consider the circle of stones surrounding the altar. These stones are arranged in a perfect geometric pattern, one that corresponds with the movement of the sun throughout the year, tracking the solar cycle with startling precision. Was this alignment simply a reflection of ancient cosmology, or did it serve a deeper ritualistic purpose, perhaps to attune the temple to the celestial rhythms, allowing the emperor to communicate more effectively with the gods? As we delve deeper into the mysteries of these temple alignments, the speculative theories grow more fascinating. Some believe that the ancient architects were guided by a lost system of measurement, a kind of universal blueprint encoded into the structures themselves. There are whispers of ancient mathematical formulas embedded in the design of these temples, formulas so precise that they seem to mimic the golden ratio found in nature. This hidden geometry, some suggest, was not merely for aesthetic purposes, but rather to tap into a universal harmony, a force beyond the physical world that could bring prosperity, protection, and balance to the land. One particularly intriguing theory proposes that these alignments were connected to ancient astronomical phenomena, events such as solar eclipses, planetary conjunctions, or the rise of certain stars. Some scholars argue that the placement of temples in relation to these events was intended to capture celestial power during specific moments in time, harnessing it to influence the physical and spiritual realm. Could it be that these temples were not just places of worship, but powerful conductors of cosmic energy, carefully placed at intersections of earthly and celestial lines? While these theories are tantalizing, the answers remain elusive. Some modern Feng Shui practitioners believe that the ancient architects were simply guided by natural intuition, an innate understanding of the Earth's energies, passed down through generations. In this view, the meticulous placement of each stone, the careful alignment of each structure, is a reflection of an almost mystical relationship between humankind and the universe. The belief is that these alignments were not calculated but rather felt by the builders, an inherent knowledge of the natural world that transcended written records. Yet, there are also fringe theories that suggest a more esoteric origin. Some point to the ancient shamanic practices that once permeated Chinese culture. In these practices, the very landscape itself was believed to be imbued with spirit, and temples were constructed at points where earthly forces intersected with spiritual realms. Perhaps the alignments were a way of tuning into these forces, creating sacred spaces where the physical world and the spiritual world could merge. Could these temples have been designed not only to attract divine favor, but to act as portals to another realm, where the energies of the earth and the heavens could communicate directly? Then there is the mystery of the Feng Shui masters who came centuries later, armed with ancient texts and arcane knowledge, who traveled the country seeking out places of power. They often chose sites near mountain ranges, rivers, or ancient burial grounds, believing that the Earth's qi was especially strong at these locations. Did they build upon an ancient tradition that had long been forgotten? Were these masters the heirs of a hidden lineage of cosmic architects, passing down secret knowledge that remained largely undiscovered by the outside world? As the story unfolds, the alignment of ancient temples with cosmic forces remains one of China's most enduring mysteries. What secrets were encoded into the stone and timber of these sacred spaces? Were they designed to bring harmony between man and nature, or were they much more, capable of tapping into celestial power and communicating with forces far beyond human understanding? Perhaps the truth lies somewhere between ancient wisdom and mystical intuition, waiting for those who dare to uncover its layers. As we ponder the existence of these temples, their design, and their purpose, the questions only multiply. Could there be something still hidden within their structures? An ancient truth that lies just beyond our reach, waiting for the right moment to be revealed. As the earth rumbles beneath our feet, the sensation is both unsettling and mysterious. It is as if the planet itself is communicating, shifting, and moving in ways we can barely understand. In modern times, we have tools, sensitive instruments that measure these movements with precision, allowing us to study earthquakes, predict their paths, and in some cases, save lives. But imagine for a moment that such technology was not a modern invention. Imagine, instead, that thousands of years ago, in the heart of ancient China, a civilization had already developed a seismograph, a device that could detect the movements of the Earth long before the scientific world had even dreamed of such things. In the 2nd century BCE, during the Han Dynasty, China was not only building empires but also creating some of the most sophisticated technologies of the ancient world. One of the most astonishing of these inventions was the earthquake detector, designed by the renowned court official and scientist Zhang Heng. Zhang Heng, a polymath with interests spanning astronomy, hydraulics, and mathematics, is best known for his invention of the seismoscope, a device that would become one of the earliest known examples of a seismograph. The device itself, a large bronze vessel, sat like a silent sentinel at the heart of Zhang Heng's vision. At its base, a set of 8 dragon heads faced outward, each one holding a bronze ball in its mouth. Suspended above the dragons, within the vessel, sat a delicate system of levers and pivots connected to a central axis. This intricate mechanical setup was designed to detect the tremors of an earthquake. When an earthquake occurred, the movement would cause the mechanism inside to shift, releasing one of the dragon balls and dropping it into the open mouth of one of the bronze frogs positioned at the base of the device. The frog that caught the ball would indicate the direction from which the earthquake's shock waves had originated. This device, crafted with such precision, offers a glimpse into the advanced understanding that the ancient Chinese had of natural forces, long before the advent of modern scientific tools. The fact that Zhang Heng's invention was capable of detecting earthquakes hundreds of miles away from the source is a testament to the sophistication of his mechanical knowledge and the resources available to him in the Han Dynasty. But as we dig deeper into the mystery, questions arise. How did Zhang Heng come to design such a device? Was it a product of trial and error? Or did it represent a knowledge passed down through ancient wisdom, far beyond what was recorded in historical texts? Zhang Heng himself was a man of many talents, deeply steeped in the intellectual traditions of his time. However, the seismoscope was not simply the result of his individual genius. It was, perhaps, a reflection of a much older, more mysterious understanding of the natural world. The existence of Zhang Heng's device also prompts the intriguing question: how much did the ancient Chinese know about earthquakes before their detection? Earthquakes had long been a part of life in China, particularly in the seismic zones of the Himalayan foothills and the Yangtze River basin. Ancient texts describe earthquakes as powerful omens, signals from the heavens, or even acts of divine retribution. The knowledge of such forces was clearly important to the early Chinese, and the seismoscope appears to be an attempt to understand and measure these unpredictable events. Though Zhang Heng's seismoscope was a groundbreaking invention, it would not be until the modern era that truly accurate and detailed methods of measuring seismic activity were developed. Yet, the question remains: how much did the ancient Chinese understand about the Earth's movements? Was Zhang Heng's seismoscope an isolated stroke of genius, or was it part of a much larger, forgotten tradition of earthquake knowledge? There are some who suggest that the design of the seismoscope may have been inspired by astrological beliefs or other mystical philosophies that permeated the ancient world. According to Feng Shui, for example, the Earth is considered to have an invisible energy force known as Qi, which flows through landscapes. Could it be that Zhang Heng's device was, in some way, a tool to tap into or measure the disturbances in the flow of this energy? Some speculate that the detection of earthquakes could have been linked to an understanding of earthly forces, forces that harmonized with celestial cycles in ways that we have yet to fully comprehend. The seismoscope's function also raises the possibility that Zhang Heng's creation was more than just a scientific instrument. It may have had ritual significance as well. In ancient China, emperors and scholars believed that the physical world was inextricably connected to the divine realm. Earthquakes were often seen as messages from the gods or as warnings of impending disasters. Could Zhang Heng's seismoscope have been crafted not only to measure the tremors of the earth, but also to interpret the cosmic order and prevent catastrophe? Was it perhaps a tool of divination, used to better understand the will of the gods? However, the real mystery lies not in the function of the device, but in the context of its creation. Could the design of the seismoscope have been a product of ancient traditions long lost to history? Was Zhang Heng's knowledge entirely his own, or did he build upon earlier discoveries made by scholars from previous dynasties? There are suggestions that knowledge of seismic activity and the instruments to measure it may have been passed down through secret societies or through the teachings of ancient shamans or astronomers. Despite Zhang Heng's innovative device, the mystery surrounding the true extent of ancient Chinese knowledge of seismic activity endures. Could there have been other similar instruments lost to time that measured not only earthquakes, but also the subtle vibrations of the earth itself? How far back does this knowledge go? And most intriguing of all, what unwritten traditions or hidden discoveries are still buried beneath the weight of centuries? As we explore the legacy of Zhang Heng's seismoscope, we are left with as many questions as answers. Was this groundbreaking invention merely an isolated genius at work? Or did it represent a part of a much larger, deeper knowledge of the world and the forces that shape it? The answers, it seems, may still be waiting to be uncovered. What ancient truths, hidden within the layers of history, might we one day discover about the mysterious seismic world that so fascinated Zhang Heng and his contemporaries? In the vast, desolate stretches of the Tarim Basin in western China, a discovery was made in 1980 that would forever alter our understanding of ancient cultures, migration patterns, and even the very nature of human history. Buried beneath the desert sands, deep within the ruins of the ancient city of Loulan, lay a mummified body, a figure whose existence seemed to defy the conventional narratives of ancient China and the people who once inhabited this region. The woman who would become known as the Loulan Beauty was found encased in a tomb, perfectly preserved by the arid desert climate. Her body, wrapped in layers of fabric, lay undisturbed for over 2 millennia, her long, dark hair still in place, her facial features sharp and striking even in death. She is one of the Tarim mummies, a series of well-preserved bodies that have been found in the region, and her discovery has sparked both awe and mystery. What makes the Loulan Beauty's remains particularly intriguing is not only her remarkable preservation, but also her appearance. Unlike the typical East Asian features one might expect from ancient Chinese remains, her face exhibited traits that seem almost Caucasoid: high cheekbones, a long nose, and a narrow face. This stark contrast has led some to speculate. Who were these people, and how did they come to be in the heart of China's desert? The Tarim Basin, where Loulan once thrived, is a place where ancient cultures converged and diverged. For thousands of years, it served as a critical crossroads along the Silk Road, the legendary trade route that linked the East and the West. Merchants, travelers, and conquerors from Central Asia, Persia, India, and the Mediterranean all passed through this region, leaving behind a rich tapestry of cultural exchanges. The presence of European-looking mummies like the Loulan Beauty suggests that, long before the great migrations of the Huns or the Turkic tribes, the region was already home to diverse populations with complex origins. Yet, despite these historical clues, the identity of the Loulan Beauty remains a mystery. Who was she, and what was her life like? How did she come to rest in the middle of one of the most remote and inhospitable deserts on Earth? The mummies of the Tarim Basin have long puzzled archaeologists and historians. The people buried in the area, such as the Loulan Beauty, are believed to have belonged to a group known as the Tocharians, a people whose language, culture, and physical features seem to have had distinct European influences. These people, often depicted with red hair and light skin, appear to have been part of an ancient, migratory population that traveled from the West, possibly from the region of Europe or the Caucasus. But how did they end up in the middle of Asia? Scholars have long debated whether the Tocharians were the descendants of ancient Indo-European speakers who ventured eastward in antiquity, or whether they were a group who had traveled along the Silk Road, seeking new lands, new opportunities, or escaping turmoil. What is clear, however, is that their presence in the Tarim Basin predates the rise of the Han Dynasty by centuries, raising questions about the extent of their interactions with other ancient civilizations and cultures in the region. One of the most compelling pieces of evidence in the search for the origins of the Loulan beauty and her people lies in the clothing and textiles found with her remains. The fabrics in which she was wrapped, along with the woolen garments and embroidery that adorned her body, show evidence of a highly sophisticated textile tradition that aligns with Western Eurasian practices, particularly those seen in Celtic and Scythian cultures. The designs, too, are evocative of European artistry, suggesting a cultural link between the Tocharians of the Tarim Basin and peoples far to the west. This discovery has prompted further questions. Was the Loulan beauty part of an early, isolated civilization that existed along the Silk Road, one that combined elements of both Eastern and Western traditions? Or was her presence in this desert a result of the broad, global networks that already existed in antiquity, long before the rise of empires like the Roman Empire or the Chinese Han Dynasty? The burial of the Loulan beauty itself adds another layer of intrigue to this mystery. She was laid to rest in a tomb in the ruins of Loulan, an ancient city that appears to have been abandoned centuries ago. The city of Loulan was located near the edge of the Taklamakan Desert, a place often described as the Sea of Death for its unforgiving, barren conditions. How then did the Loulan beauty come to be buried here? What was her connection to the city, and what role did she play in its history? The positioning of her tomb, alongside the remains of other mummies, suggests that Loulan may have been a city of cultural and strategic significance. It's possible that the mummified individuals found in the region were part of an elite class, perhaps royalty or priests, who held power and influence over the surrounding lands. Alternatively, the mysterious desert burial could indicate a group of nomads, interred in a manner that suggested a belief in an afterlife. But what is perhaps most striking about her remains is the mummification process itself. The desiccating, arid conditions of the desert were likely a natural form of preservation, but evidence suggests that a more ritualistic or intentional mummification process may have been involved. The use of herbs, oils, and specific techniques for embalming the body could point to a deep spiritual or religious significance, perhaps tied to the belief in the journey to the afterlife. As we delve deeper into the mystery of the Loulan beauty, there are still many unanswered questions that demand exploration. Could the Tocharians, who left behind evidence of Western Eurasian influence, have been part of a much larger migration movement, one that spanned continents and connected the ancient cultures of Europe, Asia, and beyond? Were these people, the Loulan beauty among them, a people living at the crossroads of East and West, interacting with empires and kingdoms that we have yet to fully understand? And what of the unusual traits of the Loulan beauty herself? Was she truly the product of a distant migration, or is there something more to her origins? Her European-like features might suggest that her people were part of a broader network of travelers or settlers who moved eastward through the Caucasus and Central Asia. Or it could be a sign of genetic diversity influenced by centuries of contact between disparate cultures. The mystery of the Loulan beauty invites us to consider not only the lost histories of the Tarim Basin, but also the hidden connections between distant lands. What secrets might still lie beneath the shifting sands of this ancient desert? Could the true story of the Tocharians and the Loulan beauty be more complex and far-reaching than we ever imagined? Only time and further exploration will provide the answers. The Silk Road, stretching over 4,000 miles from Chang'an in China to Rome, was more than just a trade route. It was a lifeline, a bridge between East and West, connecting ancient civilizations through the exchange of goods, ideas, and culture. But beyond its storied history of merchants, caravans, and exotic wares, there lies a darker, more enigmatic side of the Silk Road, a side often shrouded in mystery and silence. Throughout the centuries, travelers, traders, and even entire caravans have disappeared without a trace, swallowed up by the vast and unforgiving deserts, rugged mountains, and treacherous terrain that line the route. Some of these disappearances are easily explained by the harsh, natural elements of the region. But others? They seem to suggest something far more mysterious, perhaps even supernatural. The expanse of land that the Silk Road cuts through is as diverse as it is dangerous. From the towering Himalayas to the vast emptiness of the Taklamakan Desert, the landscape is both beautiful and deadly. It is easy to imagine a single lost caravan overwhelmed by a sudden sandstorm or ambushed by bandits, vanishing without a trace. Yet, when entire groups of people seemingly disappear overnight, or when the remains of long-forgotten settlements are discovered, untouched for centuries, the questions multiply. What could have caused these people to vanish? Was it merely the wrath of nature, or something more? Something that still eludes us? One of the most haunting stories of disappearance along the Silk Road occurred in the year 121 CE, during the reign of the Han Dynasty. A large caravan, carrying valuable goods like silk, spices, and precious metals, was making its way westward through the Taklamakan Desert when it vanished without a trace. The caravan was well known, and the journey had been carefully planned, with experienced guides and ample supplies. Yet, as it passed the Karakoram Mountains, it simply disappeared. Despite numerous searches, no trace of the caravan was ever found. Some theorists believe that the travelers were victims of a sandstorm, which is known to strike the desert with little warning, erasing any trace of a passing caravan. However, there are those who question this, suggesting that perhaps the caravan was ambushed by bandits or even foreign invaders who had been lurking along the trade route. There are also speculations that the caravan may have become disoriented, leading them to wander deeper into the desert where no one could survive for long. But what if the caravan didn't simply disappear because of natural forces? What if there was something more sinister at play? The disappearance of entire groups of people from the Silk Road raises questions about whether there may have been forces in the region, whether bandits, local tribes, or even ancient mystical practices that could explain these vanishing acts. Were the travelers victims of a curse or a ritualistic sacrifice, perhaps? Could the desert have claimed their souls, as many legends from the region suggest, leaving nothing behind but the shifting sands? Another enigmatic story lies in the fate of the city of Loulan, once a thriving hub along the Silk Road. The city, believed to have been inhabited by the Tocharians, was known for its strategic location and its cosmopolitan nature, blending influences from both the east and west. Yet, despite its prominence in ancient trade, Loulan vanished seemingly overnight. When explorers and archaeologists discovered the ruins in the 20th century, they found a city frozen in time, no signs of battle or destruction, no bodies, just the remains of buildings and artifacts. What caused the abandonment of Loulan? Was it the desert, encroaching on the city's location? Or was it the collapse of the once bustling trade networks that led to the city's decline? Some speculate that Loulan's disappearance could be linked to the rise of other powers in the region, like the Xiongnu or the Turkic tribes, who may have encroached on the area, causing the Tocharians to flee. Others suggest that the city may have been deliberately abandoned, its inhabitants choosing to vanish for reasons unknown, possibly in search of more fertile lands or as part of an ancient migration. The eerie silence of Loulan has sparked more than just historical curiosity. It has become a symbol of the inexplicable mysteries of the Silk Road. As scholars continue to study the ruins, many wonder, Was Loulan just another casualty of the harsh environment, or was there something more mysterious at play? Could there have been a ritualistic purpose behind its abandonment, a reason tied to the spiritual beliefs of its people? The silence of the city lingers, prompting many to consider what truths remain hidden in its forgotten streets. The Gansu Corridor, a narrow strip of land between the Qinling Mountains and the Taklamakan Desert, was once a vital passage for travelers journeying along the Silk Road. However, this area has long been notorious for a series of mysterious disappearances. In the 3rd century CE, several caravans were reported to have vanished while traveling through the Gansu Corridor, and the last known trace of the travelers, if any, was found several days' journey away, leading some to believe that the groups may have fallen victim to bandit attacks, while others suspect that they might have been cursed by local spirits or supernatural forces. One of the most perplexing elements of these disappearances is the fact that they seem to occur with unnerving regularity. It wasn't just one caravan, but many, all disappearing from the same area, with little or no trace left behind. Could the local legends of ghostly apparitions or malevolent spirits have been more than just folklore? Were these forces more powerful than the travelers' survival skills? The ghostly tales of the Gansu Corridor speak of a phantom city where the souls of those who perished in the desert are said to linger, preventing others from passing through. Perhaps there is something unseen in the desert's depths, something ancient, something forgotten, that continues to claim the lives of those who venture too far, lost in its dunes. As we consider the mysteries of these disappearances along the Silk Road, we are forced to confront the vastness of the unknown. The trade route, once a thriving artery for culture and commerce, is now home to countless unexplained stories of lost caravans, abandoned cities, and vanishing peoples. The harsh landscape, which has claimed many lives over the centuries, may indeed be the cause of some of these mysteries, but what about the others, the ones that seem to defy logic and explanation? Could there be forces at work on the Silk Road, hidden forces that we still do not understand? Could the mysteries of the ancient past be more complex than we have ever imagined, woven into the very fabric of the land itself? What truths are still buried, waiting to be uncovered? The Silk Road's many mysteries are yet to be fully unraveled, leaving us to wonder what lost histories, unseen forces, and forgotten peoples may still be waiting to tell their story.